and I'm hypnotized. I'm hypnotized. Oh, I know that I love you even though you'll get me killed one day. But when we lock eyes and your smile's shining bright, I'll do anything you say, 'cause I'm hypnotized. I'm hypnotized. I'm hypnotized by the light in your eyes. I seem to always find myself in a bind with you. So stomp your feet to the sound of all your burdens crashing down, 'cause I belong to you. I'm hypnotized. Oh, I know that I love you even though you've changed everything in my life. Oh, I know that I love you even though I seem to be hypnotized.
I want to talk to you about training.
What are you afraid of?
I'm afraid of taking on the name and losing.
Bring back everything that's ever hurt you. Put it in both.
Be more demanding with Spotify Premium. You can play.
I think I'm starting to lose my mind because this precarious situation that we find ourselves in means that it's only a matter of time before a storm of wonder starts to fill my mind. And for the first time in a long time, you're the first one to make me feel like I want you more than I know. I cannot take my eyes off of you. If you're a storm, I'll dance in the rain and hold on by my fingertips. Maybe I've already lost my mind. Maybe we've come so far so fast and now there's no way we could ever go back. And now it's only a matter of time before a storm of wonder starts to fill my mind. And for the first time in a long time, you're the first one to make me feel like I want you more than I do. I cannot take my eyes off of you. If you're a storm, I'll dance in the rain. You took me in, swept me away. I'm tossed and turned, thrown Tomorrow is life left to find. Wake up with brand new eyes. Seems like we're lost in our minds. We're only a moment behind. Now it's done, feeling so weary. We are landslides, falling so slowly, meant to break apart. It's alright. Where do we hide to escape? I know behind me is keeping pace. My heart is fighting my head. It's alright. Tomorrow is life left to find. Wake up with brand new eyes. Seems like we're lost in our minds. We're only a moment behind. One, two, three, four. Can I count on you to be there for me? Guess I'll have to wait and see. Wait and see. Shut the front door, had me checking my phone for your number. Thought I might have missed your call. Will you call? I'm waiting for you. I'm praying, hoping there's still someone for me. I'm waiting for you. I'm praying that you'll come soon, hoping there's still someone for me. Lowering glass walls, pull my gaze to prove my insecurities. Guess I think there's something wrong with me. Will someone love me for me? I'm waiting for you. I'm praying, hoping there's still someone for me. I'm waiting for you. I'm praying that you'll come soon, hoping there's still someone for me. While anticipating love, I'll keep working on myself, reclaiming who I really am. I'm waiting, I'm praying that you'll come soon, hoping there's still someone for me. I'm waiting for you. I'm praying that you'll come soon, hoping there's still someone for me.
We burned all the witches, we set the world on fire. We sang with candles in our hands. And this could be an anthem of what we're coming to. Giving guilty credit to you. We cast out the demons, then we'll drink another round. We stand where no one's to be found. And I could be the prophet of these unholy truths. Never mind the state that my soul is in. And oh Lord, I hold my breath, yeah. And oh Lord, I hold my breath. Come on, it's a bad new religion. They're doing what makes them feel good. Oh Lord, oh Lord. The truth that stings, so we're gonna choose not to listen. Living 1 foot in the grave, riding from the inside out, yeah. And I hold my breath. Yeah, yeah, and oh Lord, I hold my breath. I found a way to sleep at night. I found a way to lay my head. I found a way to cheat death. I found a way, but I was already dead. Let me tell you about a man that was scared, 'cause he never seemed to understand. When he got old, when he got old. Let me tell you about a man that was scared, 'cause he never seemed to find that one. He let her go. He let her go, yeah. I rolled straight to the Lord. I run straight to the Lord. I run straight to the Lord. 'Cause he holds my head up high.
Good evening and welcome back to the CSL, the Collegiate Star League. My name's Toffee, as always, bringing you the action here on Tuesday nights, joined by my co-caster, Gorgon the Wonder Cow. You can find me at Toffee's TV. You can find him at the Wonder Cow over on Twitter, and you can find the C Star League at C Star League. Pretty simple, pretty self-explanatory, but what's not going to be simple, Gorgon, is going to be I guess it's going to be UC Berkeley versus UC Davis. For those of you who can't see both names or don't know who the cute anime lovers are. That said,
obviously Berkeley. Clear. I mean, everybody knows.
Well, the cute anime lovers have a tall order for them. They're 2-4 right now in the league, whereas UC Davis is 6-0. So it's not going to be an easy trek for them. Let's talk about the draft so far.
Well, already we're seeing the Dazzle come out. That's a hero that was very popular at Frankfurt. Slardar, also very popular at Frankfurt. Both of them favorite picks of OG, so I'm not that surprised to see them. They've also been rising picks for weeks and weeks and weeks, right? So no surprises here. Undying, still kind of a holdover pick from 6.84 at the end, just post-TI, that has continued to show strength throughout the fall and once again at Frankfurt. So really no surprises so far.
Yeah, absolutely. So pretty straightforward stuff. Slaughter, like you said, and I do want to point out that you predicted before Frankfurt ever started was going to be a very impactful hero going into the majors because of the focus on physical damage in the current meta, and obviously he was. Undying, and especially Dazzle, super popular, especially, was Dazzle, let me ask you this, was Dazzle popular because of the armor reduction and the fact that he works well with that physical damage type of meta, or because the players that made it into sort of the upper echelon of the majors all had such strong Dazzles?
So Dazzle is an interesting case because, yeah, we did have really strong Dazzle players on the strongest teams in the world, right? Mm-hmm. So if you saw maybe some Chinese teams getting up toward the upper echelons, maybe if they had played a little bit better, you might not have seen quite as much Dazzle. That said, Dazzle has been on the rise for a while now, and he's actually started to climb recently, just before Frankfurt even, from that second round of picks into the first round of picks, but he's not quite important enough to often warrant being in the first round of ban. So he's in that sweet spot for a hero where he gets picked up usually in the first 4 picks, but he's not usually important enough to actually warrant a ban to stop him from being picked up there. Now, yeah, we even saw a little bit of him toward the end of last patch.
Right. Now, there are a couple of heroes, obviously, that are important enough to be banned first. One of those that we saw not being considered that important early on in the Frankfurt Majors, even to the point towards the end, I would say, in the Grand Finals, is that Tusk. And they went ahead and put him on an early ban here. I don't disagree with that at all. Tell me, what's the logic behind letting Tusk through? Because it seems like that snowball is just too strong to allow to run free.
I think, honestly, what it comes down to is that people would rather let the Tusk through than let through a direct counter to something in their lineup. And especially at the pro level, one thing that I will also point out is that the teams that did really well tended to be the teams that had more diverse, unique bans. For example, OG, they're tied for their second most ban was Ancient Apparition. They banned Ancient Apparition more than any other team at that tournament because it did so well against the strategies that they tended to run, which were mostly strength hero strategies, largely based around heroes like Alchemist that do rely on the regen very heavily. So I think for Secret and OG especially, letting the Tusk through when they felt confident going into it with whatever heroes that they were drafting, whatever strategy they had, or picking it up themselves seemed to be the way to go. And certainly for a lot of teams, the Tusk seems less scary than the Doom, for example.
Makes sense.
Even though Doom actually had a pretty miserable showing.
At a small moment as we wait for the last bands to say, congratulations to OG on taking the whole thing. Phenomenal tournament. If you guys didn't watch Majors, go and check out, honestly, most of the games, but the grand finals, the winners final, and the losers final were all
of them were
insane. And I'm not kidding either. Insanely good. So definitely worth checking out. I often wonder, you know what I wish? This is the last thing I'll say about another team before I move on to talk more about what we're watching here tonight. I wish I could have been a fly in the room as Complexity watched OG win. I think that would have been an interesting
Complexity
conversation.
just signed on some pretty
I
solid
thought that
players.
was interesting that they came back and they showed some amazing signs. Not only that, but they brought brother powers together, and we can talk about that another time. But I thought that was very interesting to see Moon and Tal do so gosh darn well. Excited to see what both of those teams bring in the future. That said, Tiny picked up by cute anime lovers. Clearly not going to be a support Tiny, which we apparently know exists now in some crazy alternate universe.
Not all, but this universe. It exists
I know.
in this. That's the crazy thing. Yeah, no. Unless an alchemist gets picked here, we should not be seeing that support Tiny play.
So when you pick a Tiny here,
At your service.
in your UC Davis's position, do you automatically assume that Tiny is going to be in the mid position, or do you sort of have to draft around the possibility that he's going to be the hard carry?
You assume he's going to be in the mid with the potential for a hard carry switch.
Gotcha.
Just because mid is much more popular right now, right? And mid is a much more aggressive Tiny. That's the Tiny that you're going to see get a Blink Dagger and start rotating. It's much more difficult to rotate out of the safe lane because A, then you're leaving your best avenue for farm empty, and B, because it's farther to get to anywhere from that safe lane than it is from the lane. So if you do have an Undying and a Dazzle, both aggressive style of heroes that do want to start getting active pretty early in the game, the Tiny makes more sense as a mid than as a farming carry. Now, what I wouldn't expect here is the IO to come out with that Tiny, just because that's a difficult combo to run, despite how strong it is. And at this level of play, I think it's safer for cute anime lovers to go for another strong support that is independently strong than try to run a very difficult to run combo.
Well, I also think they probably would have burned one of those bans on. I guess the fact that they would have banned one of the Ancient Apparition in one of those ban spots tells me there's not going to be an IO. Spirit Breaker picked up. He's a great hero. I think he's going to fit well here. A lot of global presence, a lot of ability to sort of cause trouble and always keep you guessing. And on the opposite side, UC Davis got Wind Ranger. I know you don't love her. I know that, in fact, I've heard you describe her as a, and this is a quote here, meh hero.
Yeah, she's kind of mess. She was the worst hero at Frankfurt. So since we've been talking about Frankfurt, she just outside of Weehaw,
right?
her win rate was in the 20s. It was bad mojo, and it was bad for both Europe and China. So it wasn't just like middle ranked Chinese teams were playing Wind Ranger and bringing her down. It's all a conspiracy of the man. No, she doesn't fit the current metagame that well anymore because a lot of heroes that counter her are in play quite often. And even before then, she was kind of a meh hero when she wasn't being regularly countered. And at most levels of play, in fact now within the last month, at every level of play, she also loses more games than she wins in pubs. So all the way around, I think she's not an awful hero, but she's definitely more popular than her strength warrants, I would say.
All right, now we need to get a Lich picked up by UC Davis. Now, this is a hero, a support who is incredibly strong, right? Because of his ability to sort of give automatic lane advantage, cause a lot of trouble. The armor is an awful strong thing, especially early on when we talk about the physical damage, especially coming from Tiny and Spirit Breaker. That said, Lich is just so boring to play, man. Like,
you don't like Lich?
I think he's tedious to play. It's just you spend all your time Frost Armor. I don't know.
Yeah, but every now and then you get in there with a Frost Blast. And,
that's true.
That's
true. You get a good bounce. You get a good bounce. The question is, do you think that this... I think it's going to fit well against the team. Undying, Tiny, Spirit Breaker, all going to be in the mix very aggressively. Bounce will continue on. That said, I imagine he'll be a hard 5. Visage will probably get the early farm priority, right, to try and pick up that Acceptor because of his strength ability, or the strength of his familiars. Alchemist picked up. Does that imply it could be a support Tiny, or do you think at this level, not a chance?
Not on the Dire side, no.
Okay.
I don't know that the toss range will reach on the Dire side. It
that
might.
makes sense.
I don't know that it will. I know you can't do the Tuskar, the equivalent. So you can do that with 3 heroes on the Radiant side, as far as I'm aware. You can do it with Tusk, you can do it with Pudge, you can do it with Tiny. You may be able to do it with Earthshaker if you really work your ass off and find a way to get that Fissure to land right, but I don't think you can. I think it's just those 3 heroes. So, on Dire side, you can do it with Pudge. I don't think you can do it with either Tiny or Tusk, but that said, I'm sure somebody creative will go and try to do it after this broadcast.
Wraith King.
It could be a carry Tiny now, though, with a mid Alchemist. That's very realistic. They have 4 melee strength heroes up against a Lich with Frost Armor and a really solid range Kiter with the Wind Ranger. That is one of the things she does do very well.
So tell me about what's the logic behind this Wraith King, in your opinion? He's a hero we don't get to see as often.
He's a carry?
Yeah. I mean, don't you think
Do they have a really good Wraith King player?
I guess that could be it, because it seems to me like there's other heroes, perceivably, if you're looking for that hard carry, that would benefit from the armor reduction of Slardar and the lockdown capabilities of Wind Ranger. Wraith King's great. Maybe they just felt like they needed somebody a little tankier to cause some trouble. I don't know.
I feel like a Spectre would have been better.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
She tanks a lot of damage. She disperses that damage to... Remember, Spectre does damage based on how close you are to her with dispersion. So if you've got a team with 4 melee strength carries on the other team, strength heroes typically don't scale armor that well. And so because of the way that dispersion works now, if you have a higher armor than your opponents, you're doing a ton of damage. So against strength hero, dispersion tends to be pretty solid. Against melee heroes, it tends to be very solid as well. And she's a pretty hard carry. I think the Wraith King, one of the logical points behind it is that he gets going much earlier than a Spectre typically does in most playstyles. So he's going to window alongside that Slardar, in theory. I suspect we're going to see like a Blink Dagger into Blade Mail build coming out of the Wraith King. And they might just try to roll through some towers with the Wind Ranger. That's what I'm expecting.
All right, so quick introduction here for the 2 teams. We've got UC Davis versus UC Berkeley. On the Dire side, we've got Cal, Anime Lovers, UC Berkeley, whatever you want to call it. And they are going to be playing Dark Cataclysm on the Dazzle. We're going to have Juan on the Tiny. We're going to have Undying played by Delta Sheep. Lil Namcor will be on the Alchemist. And last but not least, K-Wiz will be on the Spirit Breaker.
All right, and down here, Zone, and out the Spirit Breaker, it's going to be UCD with Lucky 57 running around on that Wind Ranger. Wawa Panda is going to be soaring on the Visage. We've got Jet reincarnating on the Wraith King. Judge Me Twitch, I Dare You is sliding around on that Slardar. And, of course, Chocobo is chilling out on the Lich.
Dangerous words. I think the second only to Judge Me Reddit, I Dare You, as we get this game underway. So we'll keep an eye on him in Twitch chat. Keep in mind, you can judge him throughout the entire match. Last tonight charts up for you guys on the left side. For those of you just joining us, this is the C-Star League, collegiate Dota at its finest. $15,000 in scholarships going out this year or this season to the top teams, as well as a all-expense-paid trip to the LAN final for, I believe, the top 4. So it should be a good one. It's going to be a great season. And just a reminder, guys, this is our last match before the holiday break. We're going to be gone until January 12th. June would be way too long. January 12th, and we'll be back with brand new matches to continue the season and allow people to continue moving forward in the standings. And that's going to be why I believe these 2 teams are going to be searching to secure those top positions to make sure that they're more comfortable in the January return. That said, let's talk.
Especially because coming back after that long of a break, and you know these players are not going to be playing super regularly probably over Christmas, Hanukkah, your New Year's celebration. So, yeah, coming in with a buffer so that you can be rusty after your holiday festivities, that sounds like a good idea to me.
Absolutely. Now, let's look at the lineups. We're down on the bottom. We're going to have Jet and K-Wiz going head-to-head. And it is sort of head-to-head because right now, YY Panda was spending a little more time out working some stack, trying to get a D-ward, which he actually missed. The D-ward is just outside of range of that ward. So close, yet so gosh darn far, and that will prevent pulling, which is going to be great for the Spirit Breaker. Over in the mid position, Lil Namcor doing the Alk thing. Lucky 57 up against him. Is this going to be a tough lane? Who's going to have a harder time in this mid position? Well, I guess we answered our own question as Namcor's actually moved off into the jungle for a little while.
He's just stacking so that he can knock down that with Acid Spray later. Then he's going to grab the rune and then move back in. And I actually like this play a lot from him. He knows that he can't harass out the Wind Ranger that effectively past the high ground. So he pushed in really, really fast and hard, and he actually timed it really well. So Actually, props to Lil Namcor for that subtle but important sort of mid knowledge. Now, what we should typically see here is the Alchemists fall behind in terms of CS, but stay up ahead in terms of net worth just because of the Greevil's Greed.
Right.
So Wind Ranger should be able to get decent farm here, but it shouldn't be that she walks away better off than the Alchemist.
Makes sense. Up top, it looks like they are doing a little bit of a surrounding play here, but Judge Me Twitch and Chocobo are going to fall back here and be fairly careful. So they move back behind the tower. They should be absolutely fine. Down the bottom, K-Wiz is playing very, very aggressively, but honestly, until those familiars come out, he doesn't have a ton to worry about down here on this lane. YY Panda, has he put both of his points into stats, or is he just saving those for later?
He's holding on to him, yeah. He just used them, in fact, so they are planning on moving on this Spirit Breaker here pretty soon.
Oh, I like it.
Oh, up top, we got Chocobo. He is going to be tossed back.
Moves in on him. Chocobo's now on the run. Good stun from Judge Me. Out comes the Tombstone, but Chocobo already out of range. Tombstone down, and nothing to show for it. So, nice play by Chocobo to get out. A good stun by Slarter with the zoning, and they actually go in and get the gold, all 75 of it from the Tombstone. So, a nice little, well, it was an attempted gank that not only went badly, but gave up a pretty little chunk of gold to Judge Me.
Yeah, they needed to drop that Tombstone right here as soon as that toss went off, and the Poison Touch had to come out too. It did not seem like, from the outside looking in, it didn't seem like Tiny told anybody that he was going to do that. It looked like Tiny just did it, and nobody was prepared, including his own team.
Yeah. Oh. All right, looks like we're going to go to the top. We're Lucky and 5-7. Lucky 5-7 is putting some damage on Kata. Misses, whiffs the arrow, and gets out of there just before Namcor turns the corner. So a nice little escape, and they will secure that gold. Gold, glorious gold for Lil Namcor on the top rune. Down to the bottom, where Jet and K-Wiz are still going a little bit head-to-head here. YY Panda is being forced to go help with rune control, which lets K-Wiz get some extra farm. Periodically, he's thinking about charging. Jet gets the stun. They're coming from the backside. They have lots of illusions. K-Wiz will go ahead and charge on YY Panda. YY Panda doesn't have the familiar, so there's no stun, and he'll just walk away. Good use of the charge to make sure that he was out of range of that Wraith King. Yeah,
that was... at first, that charge looked mischievous to me. Up top, actually. We could potentially...
Oh, there's a dive on Chocobo. He gets picked up. Tossed back. Same spot as last time. What do they got for a big stun by Slardar, but not quite enough. First blood will go to the worst one you want it to go to, and that is the Tiny. So Judge Me did everything he could. He literally could not have played that better, but it just was not meant to be. Lich too squishy, and a good initiation by Juan.
Yeah, this is a difficult lane to play into if you're a Lich. Really, I think he needs to play as far back as he can and just get his levels from the sacrifice and basically let the Slardar solo lane. The Slardar is a lot more survivable because he can get that Slithering Crush out, and he can also use the sprint to get back. Now, in a lane like this, we normally won't see the Slardar get the bash until he basically maxes out both sprint and Slithering Crush, because he isn't going to be able to get a lot of utility out of it against 3. But with the supports rotating away, he may want to consider it in a one-on-one matchup against
Spirit Breaker is headed to the top, wants to get some fight on. He's going to go all the way into tower and gets the stun up on YY Panda, but Zishackle is there. There's a return stun by Namcor. It's going to cost Wind Ranger her life. K-Wiz tries to get out. Rotation by Cataclysm. They're everywhere. It is dire all day as Radiant says, I think we misjudged this. Tries to fall back. Big stun. Catches 2. Chocobo's got to go. Gets knocked with the 17, and K-Wiz continues the chase. The stun's going to come out. He self-stuns, couldn't get the vision, and GGWPs.
Right away.
Yeah,
it's over.
I think he was GG'ing the amazing juke capabilities of Visage. Gold lead, by the way, is already at 3,000 for Cal. To be expected to a certain extent with the Alchemist, but part of that is the fact that not only is Alchemist getting those runes, he's also highest on the last hit. So he has not been slouching either in terms of getting farm the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, he's a solid 2,000 ahead of his laning opponent right now, which is about where you would expect him to be. Although I will point out that he is doing a very aggressive, fighting-oriented build that we don't typically see. He now has 3 levels of Unstable Concoction, only 1 of Greevil's Greed. Now, you might sometimes see an Unstable Concoction out of the mid lane just as sort of a variety point so that you have the option for the stun if you need it, but you very rarely see it maxed before Greevil's Greed gets any additional bonuses. He's going to go in for this.
He does go for Lucky. Lucky 5-7 is caught inside. He's got to try to go around. Doesn't want to run through the acid spray.
That was
going to have to pop
weird
and run to
choice.
get out. Meanwhile, on the bottom, Quiz catches Jet. Jet gets the stun. Charge up in 1. Can he get out of vision range? He does. Quiz can't close the deal. Up on top, however.
No,
man,
it's good too. The
fight's
sprint.
all over the place.
Yeah, the tombstone was committed and the avalanche came out, but the toss back was vitally missing. The Tiny couldn't quite close the gap to get right next to that Slardar.
This must be what it felt like to be in OBS in the majors.
Ooh,
Oh, here comes a nice
boy.
shackle by Juan. Gets the double, moves in on Dazzle. Dazzle tries to fall backwards. Juan taking a ton of damage. Good shallow grave. The toss on Twitch may backfire. Nope, it doesn't. Twitch goes in. Juan gets hit with the power shot. It's a 1-for-1. Lucky on the run. Has to pop the wind run to get out of there. Chocobo left behind. They don't have a stun on the Alchemist, however, so there is a chance Chocobo can get out of this one alive, and he will, it looks like, as long as he doesn't get too crazy on the counter aggression. So 1-for-1, the Slardar throw. I'm curious about that, because it did it essentially put Tiny in a death position, right? But also guaranteed the Slardar death.
Yeah,
trying to think if there
I
was
think
another
he was
option.
hoping that there was enough bedlam going on there that he would be able to get out during the madhouse. But, yeah, the Slardar is not as high of a priority kill as the Tiny, typically. But in this case, they have about the same net worth, actually. So it ends up being a more or less equivalent.
Uh-oh. Chocobo's trying to run. Stun.
Beautiful.
Wow! Doesn't even need the Spirit Breaker. The stun,
He
the
did.
armor reduction, the medallion.
The
for
vision from the Spirit Breaker charge allowed him to stun uphill, and that's what's so beautiful about that play.
That, to me, the Spirit Breaker charge is a lot like the Vengeful Spirit armor reduction, the Wave of Terror, that a lot of people underestimate the value of the vision granted by those spells.
Yeah, it is one of the reasons that Spirit Breaker is as popular as he is because he provides that vision. People pick him up for the same reason that they pick up the Bounty Hunter. It's for the track, right? Now, granted, Spirit Breaker does provide you a lot. He can initiate globally. He does have good damage. He's got the Greater Bastion interrupt channeling. But a big portion of the reason that you even bother to pick him up is because out of any sort of chasing situation, you can guarantee vision for an extremely long time on any opponent around the map, which is vital for getting kills if they are juking, for example, uphill against your Alchemist who's about to self-stun.
K-Wiz taking some damage from Jet. Jet going head-to-head. He has his ultimate, though, so he's not scared to mix it up. K-Wiz ultimately has to back away as he doesn't come with an automatic resurrection. But no, it's a great vision. It also works on those Invis heroes. I think he's a strong pick in a lot of different roles. I think he's underutilized, to be honest. Now, we see Judge Me. He's going to run, gets hit with the shot from the Alchemist, who, by the way, oh wow, he's already got a Solar Crest finished up.
Yeah, and that's about where he should be. I don't have the stats on hand for when that Solar Crest is usually finished. I suspect it's actually usually a bit faster than this, because usually you have an Alchemist that prioritizes more Greevil's Greed and spends more time in lane. Right now, the Wind Ranger has been seemingly free farming this mid lane with no competition, because the Alchemist has just been floating around this area, it seems like, forever. I don't know, have you seen him go back to lane since that kill? For any extended period of time?
No, never for an extended period of time.
Yeah, I think he walked over, dropped an acid, and then came back to the spot
Very
for the
interesting.
rune. Yeah.
Well, while we have a second, why don't we open up the item menu and you tell me, let's take a look at it. Is there anything that is relevant besides the Solar Crest? I mean, I guess Wind Ranger's got her phase boots. Does everybody else seem like they're on target for where they should be at 10 minutes?
The Tiny seems a bit behind, I would say. He does have 1,300 gold, so he is going straight into a Blink Dagger. That's interesting. I'm not entirely sure I necessarily agree with that. I don't disagree with it. We'll see how it works out. If he gets ganked one or two more times, though, it's really going to hurt that he is saving for that Blink Dagger instead of getting, for example, drums or mana boots or something.
Now, I was always under the impression that Alchemists generally sought a Midas pretty early on. Is it Solar Crest and then Midas tends to be his progression?
I don't think he's going to get a Midas this game.
Okay.
I think he's just going to rely on Greevil's Greed, and this Wind Ranger may not be so lucky.
Beautiful shackle, triple TP. two of them canceled out, as I don't think any of the team expected Lucky to get that shackle on the Spirit Breaker. So well done. Got to the high ground, basically. Got vision across the river. Could not have been timed more perfectly. However, Lil Namcor, invisible. He waits for his chance to go, and boy, does he. Makes his move on Lucky 57, who is very low. Can't get the right clicks out, and they finish the job. Lil Namcor is going to self-stun, but he's okay with that because they got the pick on the Wind Ranger, which she denied them only moments earlier. Gold lead is almost 4,000 for Cal. XP is actually pretty even. So as you said, a lot of that coming just from this Alchemist's ability to aggressively farm gold. We're going to flip over to the net worth chart for you guys so you can see the stack, and that's 6.5k on the Alchemist compared to the nearest competitor at 3.6 on the Wraith King. That said, Wraith King, what do you think of where he is at this 11-minute mark? I feel like maybe a mask should have been up by now, or a bracer of some sort, an armlet.
He's going straight for Blink Dagger as well. He and
Gotcha.
Tiny racing to Blink Dagger. The Wraith King is going to do that Blink Blade Mail build that I had mentioned during the draft. I can only imagine. I don't know, like I'm not in his head. I don't have him on the line, but I assume, based on the amount of gold that he saved up, that's the goal. So he needs to beat that Tiny to the Blink Dagger. No, Tiny has given up. He is going to go Shadow Blade instead.
All right, let's check in on him, and he does. He gets that amulet, so he will be going for the Shadow Blade. Now, what does the Shadow Blade imply versus the Blink Dagger when you see that build change?
It implies that he does not feel comfortable saving up 2250 for the Blink Dagger. Instead, he wants to spend some gold and buy it in smaller components. It's not quite as mobile. It's not quite as ideal, especially since you're usually going to stun and toss directly out of Shadow Blade, so you don't often get that extra burst of damage. But we should look top because the Wind Ranger is potentially in trouble.
That was a huge charge by Quiz, and actually, Visage uses Familiars very effectively there to stun out the charge. But a huge rotation from Namcor. The AoE stun, very strong, but the ulti from Lich putting in some work. 1 for 1, make it 2. Judge me, Twitch, I dare you. Gets tossed up and knocked down like a game of T-ball. And they end up going with a 2 for 1. So Visage was a really clever heads-up play to actually try to slow down the progression there. But that rotation from the Alchemist and the AoE from that stun was just too much to deal with.
Yeah, you really start to see the combat value of this build that we don't see as much anymore, but we see more often on support outs of the max Acid Spray and max Unstable Concoction. Unstable Concoction is physical damage. So if you drop that on somebody who has -7 armor, right, it's a huge nuke. You saw it took more than half of the health from both of the heroes that it hit.
Juan could be in some trouble. He's trying to run. Here comes Judge from the back, wants to make the chase. In blinks Jet, who did finish up that Blink Dagger. They get the Shallow Grave up, but at the cost of Dazzle. K-Wiz dropping low. Out comes the Tomb. K-Wiz going to get finished off. They turn back at the 100 gold from the Tomb, but Slaughter's not done yet. He comes in, gets a big stun. He's got to back away. And they get the double plus the Tomb gold and forces Dire back. Juan lives, but at what cost?
Oh, Namcor, you can't be doing this here.
Namcor
This
gets
is not
cheeky.
your home right now, friend.
Namcor gets cheeky, but he's got a Blink Dagger, so he walks away. Says, I'm just doing my thing. Don't worry about it. Was it worth staying in that long to finish the tier 1, or should they just let that deny go through?
They probably could have finished that tier 1 with just one person in there, and it could have been the Spirit Breaker, and he could have charged out, maybe? I don't know. I don't know that for sure. It seems like it was overly aggressive, to be honest. When the glyph came out, probably they could have backed up. But having traded tier 1s and also traded heroes relatively equally is not by any means a bad thing. It did give the Shadow Blade finish to Tiny, and they would not have that item finish if they had not.
Quiz charges deep, gets caught with the stun on the back end. In comes Lucky, gonna put up her ulti, but Quiz should be able to get out of range. Here comes little Namcor from the high ground, puts up the stun. Delta Sheep gonna do some harass, but Lucky will be fine. I thought maybe Spirit Breaker might be charging to his death as he went in completely YOLO there to the high ground of his opponent's side. Looks like mid will be our next contest as both teams sort of gathered up there, and all of a sudden Dire says, I don't know, do we want to take this fight or should we just kind of keep doing our own thing? So right now, Dire is up on the charts, but that's only because of the Alchemist. Really, when you look at this lineup, Gorgon is somebody who actually, understands sort of the ebb and flow and the economic management of this game. Is Cal up as much as it looks like they are?
I don't think they're up as much as it looks like they are necessarily, but I do think that they're up, and I do think that they are in a pretty favorable position. But the Blink Dagger is now finished on the Wraith King, and he's gone very deep. He does not have the mana for Reincarnation. He's going to use a wand to get that mana, and there's the Tombstone drop. It's going to be committed. The stun coming out from the Alchemist, who does have a double damage rune up as well. He gets his ultimate off, and everybody's just going to try and disengage. The Wraith King is going to use his ultimate. That might be the word go here for UCD.
Wands,
There's going to be a toss.
Could get in trouble. He does ultimately go down. Turns back. Quiz comes in. Wants to put up some fight. But everyone's there waiting for him. He's going to drop. And it's a 2 for... Oh, no, it's not. Namcor coming from the back. Makes it the double. Judge me, Twitch. I dare you. Goes to the high ground. Gets up the stun. Inside the acid spray. Lots of help from the familiars. Little Namcor doesn't want to die. He finishes the Visage as he runs. Uh-oh. Here comes Delta Sheep. Moves in. The stun from Visage. Going to be microing like a master because he's not alive. Doesn't have to worry about himself, and does get the save on Judge Me Twitch, and he goes 3 for 3. Could have been terrible for Cal, but that wraparound from the Alchemist blinks to the high ground and comes in where nobody was expecting him to come from.
Yeah, that was a really nice play by the Alchemist to turn a bad situation into an okay situation. What I will say about that engagement is just like the last engagement, which also looked like it went pretty even, went the way of Cal because they did finish a big item out of that engagement. You're probably going to see some items start to come out for UCD because of this engagement. In fact, a Blink Dagger now up on the Slardar. If they had not taken that engagement, right? If they had not taken that fight, Slardar would not have his Blink Dagger. We wouldn't be looking at that kind of initiation and counter initiation potential now from UCD. So for Cal, it does end up being a bigger misstep than the Gold Swing implies, but it is by no means the end of the world.
Well, down the bottom, Juan gets a pick off on his arch rival, the Wraith King. So good usage of that Shadow Blade, waltzed in, got it all the way over here, almost under tower, and Wraith King, not much you could do about it. Good, and smart play, Juan knowing that the ulti would not be up anytime soon, and that was the actual time to sort of make a move. Because at this stage of the game, Wraith King, and you talked about this, Wraith King does come online earlier than Spectre in terms of his fight potential. That said, when he doesn't have his ultimate up, he really is... I don't want to say easy to pick off, but he's not the hardest hero to take down.
Yeah, he's not very mobile. He doesn't have a tremendous amount of survivability. He's not even that fast, really.
Juan looking for lucky. The charge comes out. Juan missed the avalanche. Double shackle. Juan's going to pay. Blink stun. Moves on Cataclysm. He gets up the shallow grave. They're going to follow him deep. In comes K-Wiz, but it's too little too late. Going to be the double on the back of the missed avalanche. Delta Sheep sticking around. Puts out the Tombstone. Tombstone goes down. Here's a 325 gold, and that'll be a middle tower push. Sorry to interrupt you, but that was... Had that avalanche hit, that fight would have gone completely different for UCD and Cal.
Yeah, but, you know...
Coulda, woulda, shoulda.
They would have been doing much better if this were government work as well. Close is not really right where they need to be. They're going to lose a tower out of that as well. And Invisible Alchemist coming in thinking about trying to make something go, but he doesn't have Unstable Concoction already prepped. So he can't really engage on this without his team.
Tower does go down to Visage Familiars. They'll rotate away. Little Namcor tries to farm him up. Can't do it, and they will get to safety. So, actually, I do want to say, YY Panda has been playing this Visage very, very well. His micro has been a lot better than I expected at this level, right? Like, we don't know, I don't know the MR of all these players. We usually expect Collegiate Dota to be somewhat below what we see on the pro scene, understandably, right? These players are full-time students, part-time Dota, enthusiasts and aficionados, but his Visage micro, his stuns, have been really, really on point.
Yeah, he plays at what I would consider the competitive level. He's at right around that 5,000 MMR mark. So that's a competitive level of play. It's not a professional level of play. It's not, you know, semi-pro, but it is a very impressive ranking at the very least.
For sure. 5,000 gold. Lead to Cal. XP is actually at 1,500. Much of that gold is on the Tiny, which is scary when you figure that it's an Alchemist who is farm number 2.
Well, bear in mind that Tiny, this is part of the Alchemist strategy.
Some of it's going to go away,
Tiny has
though.
been given an axe by
Juan being chased. Oh, that makes sense. Jet going to go in. Nice shallow grave by Kata. Looks like Slardar wants to chase. Not going to get there in time for the stun.
Wow.
Gets out. Nice play there. K-Wiz comes in to make sure things go well. Let's just be able to back off. So good play. Meanwhile, over in the mid, little Namcor's going crazy on Lucky 5-7. Stun's not up for 4 seconds. The pings are there. Little Namcor left all alone behind the base, and he's going to get taken down with great TPs coming out of UCD. Cal unable to withstand that onslaught. 10-12 as a UCD starts to enforce their will just a little bit more in this game.
Yeah, so this is one of the problems with an alchemist, is that if you do have an alchemist and he is getting a fair amount of the farm, which he always does because he's a goddamn alchemist, every time he dies, he gives up between 800 and 1200 gold, typically this stage of the game. So that one was about 1,000 gold that they just lost, that swung out of their favor because their alchemist died alone. Now, granted, he has offset some of that risk by spreading out his wealth, and one of the things that his recent changes have allowed him to do are make sure that he is helping out his team as well. So the Tiny is sitting on top of some of that wealth that the alchemist farmed with that Aghanim's Scepter Synth.
Right.
But even so, that was 1,000, so it's pretty substantial.
D wards going on here by the Radiant side. Going to make sure that they don't have any vision up at the moment. Dire with 1 ward, bit defensive, and that's about it. Sentry wards all over the place from UCD. Wants to keep an eye on that Tiny who's rotating so aggressively with that Shadow Blade. To a certain extent, let me ask you this. So, you know Blink Tiny is scary, right? Because he's going to get the combo. He gets to line up the way he does. To a certain extent, can a Shadow Blade Tiny be scarier because he could be anywhere at any time and you simply not know where he's coming from?
I don't think that the Shadow Blade Tiny is scarier, just because it's more counterable, right?
Right.
But it certainly can be as
Delta
scary.
Sheep!
Yeah, just
Delta
wreck.
Sheep gets turned into a sweater by a really nice combo. Shackle shot, blink, in goes Judge Me, gets the stun on Namcor. The toss from Tiny on Panda, and the fight breaks out, but a huge shackle on Juan. What a play by Lucky 57. And they want to keep moving. Quiz going to jump behind Jet, starts to put out the damage. He's got it back as well. Lucky wants to keep going. Power shot misses, splits the uprights. Jet going to go in very deep, pops the blade mail. It's going to finish out. Quiz turns back around, but here comes Judge Me again. Gets up a big stun. The shackle comes, not going to get the double latch. Quiz tries to run to safety. He ends up going down. Jet in there. He does have his ulti up, wants to try to use it. Blade mail's off a cooldown as well. Gets 1, gets 2, turns back on Namcor. Lucky 5-7 survives. Namcor does not. It's a 4-man. It might be 5 as Delta Sheep stuck around. Where's he gonna go? Nowhere but back to the grave. Undying officially dies, and Lucky 57 gets a rampage. Well played by UCD. Cal ahead until the 5-man broke out. Huge gold swing, massive XP jump, and the boys from UCD look like they want to take this one to the house.
Yeah, this is pretty good for UCD. I mean, obviously it's pretty good for them, but bear in mind kind of the type of heroes that they have, right? The Slardar does go late fairly effectively, but he doesn't split push very effectively. So you want to be able to break high ground pretty early if you've got a Slardar. He doesn't farm really well at all. He needs to be getting hero kills throughout the entire game. The Wind Ranger goes late very effectively in single target, but does not go late in terms of pushing once again, or dealing with megas, or even trying to get multiple lanes pushed out at one time. Same thing for the Wraith King. He goes late really effectively against heroes, not very effectively in any other manner. So basically their entire draft is a hero killing draft, and they need to be making these heroes dead in front of them all the time throughout this period of the game. So moving out from that 17-minute mark, they've increased that aggression, and I like that play. It shows that they know what their draft is designed to do, but they need to make sure that they're continuing to execute it, because they will fall behind if they don't.
Little Namcor sees Chocobo out, going. Lucky 5-7, though, is in range. Going to go ahead and get up the shackle. Not going to manage to latch anything. There's 3 in the offing. Lucky 5-7 in some trouble. Thought he could get it, but did not expect the cavalry, and you got to when there's a Spirit Breaker around. So a double kill for Cal. Very fortuitous. They needed to get something back after that last 5, and not only did they get it, but they stopped the rampage that UCD was on. It's a lot of gold kicked back over to the way of Cal.
Yeah, you'll see the gold probably drop about 1,500 after that, and they're also going to get a tower. So, well, yeah, it's a nice swing. They should be able to knock this tower down before there's any serious defense. Toss is going to do damage here. They've got the Ags Tiny. There's a bit of stalling coming out of the Visage, but it shouldn't be enough.
All right, here comes the charge from Spirit Breaker. A little bit of zoning, saying, don't come in. I'm watching you. Here comes the blink, though. Judge jumps in, gets the smash. Dark Cat gets the heal, puts out the Shallow Grave on himself. Will that be the right or wrong decision? Illich going to put up his ulti. Little Namcor puts some work on YY Panda. YY Panda pops the mech to live. Namcor cannot. It's a 1 down, and now they turn on Quiz. Quiz comes up. He's trying to run. He pops his Shadow Blade. Beautiful latch as K-Wiz doesn't have anywhere to go. Finishes the job. That's the double. A huge initiation that took huge brass cojones by the Slardar, much like this chase, which I think will end up going badly for him. So Slardar with big brass cojones gets gets a great stun that equals 2 kills, and then with those brass cojones says, I'm going to keep on chasing into what became guaranteed death. Lucky 5-7 does have the double damage rune and wants to try to chase to utilize it. Her ulti is very potent with that DD. Dodges the avalanche, though. Turns back and puts some damage on the tower. So I like what she did there. She blinked in, she got the shackle on Delta Sheep, put her ultimate on the tower instead, and then dodged the avalanche. So she knew she could come back in and finish that push. Pretty good plays.
They should not have been able to defend this tower, to be honest. Like, that should have been a dead tower. There's another tiny toss available, which does damage towers. This should be a gone mid lane. That fight should never have happened. And the fact that UCD managed to take that and turn it into such an amazing turn shows you why they are doing so well in this league. They are really playing the margin. Granted, they have made a couple mistakes and they have taken a couple of bad team fights, but they are doing a really good job of not falling behind, despite the fact that they've had several opportunities to do so.
Now, gold lead is dead even, which I think is a huge undertaking for a team up against an Alchemist. XP pretty heavily in UCD's favor right now, as these two teams come into the home stretch at 26 minutes. Tower advantage slightly on the side of the Radiant, but this game is, I would say, relatively even, to be completely honest, at this stage of the game.
Yeah, so I just would like to point out that because they have such heavy strength-oriented lineup, they don't have a ton in the way of armor to deal with the amplify damage. Right, every single person on their team, when that amplify damage hits level 3, even now, every single person on that team will go negative armor, will take literally amplified damage, more damage than is output from anything physical, which is very dangerous. They need an Assault Cuirass, honestly, on this team, or at the very least a Vlad's or an Aquila. I guess they do have a Basilius on the Undying. They could stand to have more.
Lucky 5-7 jumps up from behind, gets a short shackle, but that's all she needs. Namcor taking a ton of damage, and the ulti's going to burn right through it. Easy tombstone, extra 125 gold. Juan comes in, gets an avalanche. Lucky 5-7 is going to hit the win run, gets out. Jet putting up some damage. What a shackle! Gets the double latch, puts up the power shot. Ulti comes off a cooldown. It's a bounce, baby, bounce! Delta Sheep in some trouble. That'll make it a triple as UCD enacts their will. They'll pull back. They'll get this tower. No problem whatsoever, as you see Lucky 5-7 about to have her ulti off of cooldown. So they should just push in with the wave, I would imagine. Only one who can possibly defend this is actually nobody that's up right now. So it's donezo. And then I imagine they'll fall back and push out top and mid.
Is there an Ags up? There is an Ags up on the Wind Ranger, so they'll probably go to Roche right after this.
That makes sense.
There's no reason not to. The closest inaction point is going to be this mid tower.
She got a very fast exit. I think it was in the ballpark of 16 minutes. Followed up with that Blink Dagger. My favorite Wind Ranger build. She's been doing a wonderful job playing this hero. Has Lucky 5-7. Gold lead up to 2,500 for UCD. XP at 6 as UCD continues to charge down the home stretch. If we said it was a close game 5 minutes ago, it's definitely now heavily, I don't want to say heavily, it's in the favor of UCD, who will TP back to their lanes to get that farm. And the Aegis goes to Wind Ranger, no big surprise there.
And poor Spirit Breaker charged down to that mid lane to try and get this mid tower and was unable to get that as well. But he did manage to knock it down into deny range, so if they want to get rid of this mid tower, they could. It's not the end of the world if they deny it, because they do have an anchor point for future Roshan points down in the bottom lane. I think that probably denying that is the way to go.
Alright, gold lead. Jesus, just keeps going up, man. UCD in good shape. We're going to wait. There should be... Oh, no, the shackle comes out. Delta Sheep caught inside the latch, and Quiz looked like he wanted to come in. He's like, nah, man, you're done. Undying is going to go back to base, and this is going to be a good, strong mid push by UCD. And the problem that Cal has right now is that UCD can take the fights, but they're totally happy not to. Because of that Ags and because of their push potential, they're like, all right, if you don't want to fight us, we'll just take all of your lanes.
Yeah, they're going to try and suffocate out Cal, right? They're constricting the area that Cal has to breathe, and they'll continue to force Cal back into their base until only the Alchemist is able to get any substantial farm.
I would say they've definitely they started the engine. this tower is going to be the closing of the garage door.
Yeah.
And now all they have to do is start putting their foot on that gas. And there's not much that Cal can do. You're going to see Cal try to smoke, maybe get a rotation here, maybe get a pick on this tower down the bottom. Juan will take it, but they push to the high ground. They're going to start putting out some damage. What do you do as Cal? What do you do when you feel that feeling of asphyxiation start to overtake you? That hopelessness, that lethargy that comes from it, lethargy. What do you do to get back in it? How do you open the garage door?
Pretty good high ground defense hero because of that huge negative armor that comes out of the acid spray. His ability to clear those waves.
I'm gonna interrupt you because Jet goes in,
him.
comes in with the stun. Avalanche catches two. Namcor pops his ultimate, throws for days. Quiz, Met comes out. Quiz now taking a lot of damage. He's been isolated and left alone. Namcor starts the stun, waiting for it to tick down, wants to make his move. Quiz able to charge to safety. YY Panda and Jet both take the shot. That will be low for Jet. Jet taking the damage. He has the ulti, so he goes into stall. And let everybody else get away. Lucky 5-7 drops low. Avalanche from range gets a kill on the Wind Ranger, but she's coming back up with the eggs. Huge jumps from Lich. Jumps for days. Juan drops down. Now it's a 1-for-1. And Lucky 5-7 will come in to finish off, but they should, I would assume, back up here. The Aegis comes out. So I guess an okay exchange for Cal.
Yeah, I mean, they
Great
didn't lose.
exchange?
They didn't lose, and that's a-okay. The buyback seemed premature. Cal seemed pretty convinced that UCD would try to push that high ground. Probably wasn't. It looks like UCD wants to get some vision up, some aggressive vision, and they failed to do so here in their opponent's jungle. So that also means Cal is going to get at least one last sweet gasp of air here as they move out. Unfortunately, a lot of these camps have been left with one creep, so it's you know, maybe a little methane riddled, but at least they're getting something to breathe.
I like it. I like it. Let's keep this one going. All right. Gold lead is up to about 7,500 for UCD. XP at 8. And the charge is coming. Judge me, Twitch, I dare you. We're about to. If you don't get out, you're not going to. The stun's there. The knockdown. The armor reduction. K-Wiz says, guys, can you just wait for me? I'm tired of not making it there in time for gangs.
Okay, Assault Cuirass is done on the Wraith King, and still no AC done on the Dire side. Nobody even building toward an AC on the Dire side, and they're the team that really needs it. So that AC on the Wraith King is going to, honestly, it's just going to devastate Cal. They're going to be able to knock down towers.
So what do you think about the Halberd over the AC?
I think that it's...
I mean, so they got that to deal with the Wind Ranger, I assume.
Right, I would assume. Or possibly to deal with the Slardar blinking, but more than likely to deal with the Wind Ranger. I honestly think the AC would be doing more here, especially now that it would have to counter out their opponent's AC.
Right.
But it is a really tough call. It's not like the Halberd or the AC over Halberd is just phoned in.
Uh-oh, Jet comes in, puts the stun up on the illusion. So nicely baited stun there. Now they want to make a chase go on. Jet's going to blink, but the blink away. And Cal will fade out of their opponent's jungle. I think that speaks to the potential or the momentum of UCD that, honestly, that would have 10 minutes ago been a fight that Cal gladly took based on who they saw on that map.
Did you see little Namcor just now? This was another really nice play by him.
I didn't. Tell me what you saw.
So he's walking up this way. He drops his acid spray over the cliff so that he can aggro the creeps and stack it before he gets up there because he happened to be walking by at the right time. Nice. Now that's a technique that used to be used before the 6.82 map redesign. On the Dire side Ancients, you could actually offlane Alchemist with that exact same technique. And it's not something that you actually see that often anymore, the use of the acid spray to stack camps from an impenetrable distance. But I think it really shows that this player is very familiar with this hero. And also just a strong general theoretical player. Like, he knows what he's doing, clearly. And that speaks good volumes for CAL as they try to hold the high ground, because if there is a hero on their team that is most vital for defending this high ground, it's going to end up being Alchemist.
Here comes the chip. Lucky 5-7 is getting charged from the back. He's going to fall back now. Nice use of the Glimmer Cape, so he's going to go ahead and get disappeared and moves back in, puts up the damage. Can they stop it? This should be a dead tower. Lucky 5-7, no, playing it very safe. Can't blame them for that. Meanwhile, up on top, Judge Me Twitch catches K-Wiz. K-Wiz in a little bit of trouble. Does have the charge, though. Goes on Chocobo. Instead of moving for the bottom lane, gets a nice stun and backs up comfortably. Jet now clears the lane, wants to try to push in. He's going to go up aggressively. Good disjoint on the blink, but YY Panda's there. Out comes 3. Can they get the stun before his goes off? He throws it knowing that the familiars are going to make their move. Bad bounce. Unfortunate as Lich gets a bounce in the wrong direction. Good shallow grave to buy some space. K-Wiz wants to come in. The bounce is continuing, and Chocobo drops very, very low off of a really good combo. Namcor puts out the stun on Lucky 5-7. YY Panda will go down to K-Wiz, and they've lost 1. Lucky 5-7 wants to try to make it even. Goes for K-Wiz, pops the ulti, does get him down. Jet gonna be putting out tons of work with that blade mail and just being the man in the middle, and that's what he's doing. Is his AC is putting in some serious, really just making it tough for them to survive against Lucky 5-7. Lucky 5-7 does get stunned inside of the armor reduction. They are gonna get the kill on the Wraith King. In the meantime, Lucky 5-7 puts some damage on Namcor, backs away as the shallow grave comes out, turns back. Namcor's still up. Everyone turned. Namcor goes and gets the stun off on Chocobo. This is bad, like really bad. Windranger could have maybe had the finish, but hesitated. The Wraith King was going in the wrong direction. It was just communication seemed to break down on UC Davis, and that's going to cost them what looks like a team wipe.
Yeah, and Wraith King also doesn't seem to realize that the Unstable Concoction is non-disjointable, so that blink is not going to save him.
I think
Possibly, maybe could have saved himself if he blinked into impassable terrain in these trees over here, because the Tiny does not have a blink as well to follow. But even then, it's his chance of survival there was pretty low.
Yeah, I think Alk was there with his blink, so end of the day, not much you can do. That said, great play for Cal. That's the breath of fresh air that they needed as they go back into the lead in gold. They jump up to about 3,000. XP is about to even again, and they continue to aggressively farm. Now, did the Lich, his bounces seem like they're going for a very long time. So no ags on him, though. He is saving up a lot of gold. What's he going to be picking up next with that 2,000?
Probably ags,
okay.
I would assume.
With the way these fights have gone, it seems logical.
The way that they are, they're bottlenecking up mid, right? So there's typically a lot of creeps there to soak up a bunch, and that ags could be helpful. There is already a mechanism up on the Visage, so there's really... I can't think of any item that would be more effective than the Ags. He already has the Glimmer Cape. There's already a good amount of team fight for his team with the AC, with the mechanism. There's not any significant magical damage coming out of CAL. So yeah, the Ags seems to be the way to go.
Do an item check-in for those of you who are just catching up or haven't been around. We do have the Monkey King bar finished up on Windranger, so you went with that instead of the crit damage. We'll talk about that in a second. Glimmer Cape on the Lich. We've got the AC on the Wraith King, as well as that Blade Mail for maximum tankiness effective. Slardar's going to go ahead and get that Glimmer Cape. And then on the opposite side, Alchemist with the interesting Heaven's Halberd build, along with the Solar Crest, as he now starts to hand out Ag Scepters like candy. Excuse me. We have a Black King bar up on K-Wiz. Uh-oh, we got a big engagement, so cancel that as they go on Slardar. Decide it was a bad idea. Abort! Abort! And they do manage to back away. But Juan comes in. He says, I don't back down. I'm a rock. Gets the shallow grave, goes for the TP, but Shackle is there, and Juan is not, as he takes the fast way back to base as the TP is canceled. Dark Cataclysm came to help him, ends up giving his life as well. So what started out as a potentially good gank ends up falling apart and opens up a Roche should UCD choose to go for it.
Yeah, that's a really tough loss for CL. They were well on the way to pulling ahead in this game, to be honest. The way that UCD has built their heroes, their carry is getting team-oriented items now with the Assault Cuirass. Their Slardar has gone for what is now very popular in only semi-core, really more of a utility build. So they don't have a lot in way of late game. They do need to take out at least one Rax very soon. They have now done that. Because with an Alchemist and a Tiny on the team, like, one lane of Megas is not going to win this game.
All right, here they go. They're trying to get the gravestone down. Lots of zombies out. Lucky 5-7's got to back away. Armor reduction is just too strong. They say, let's not do this right now. K-Wiz comes in, makes his move. Good mech to buy some space. BKB is popped. Will it protect him just long enough to live? Jet tried to blink, but was like, no, shallow grave. Now he's got to back away. Decides to go ahead and finish off the Rax. But Lil Nampor gets a full-length stun. Not before the Blade Mail goes off, so that'll save Jet a little bit of time. Gets Glimmer Caped and blinks to safety. Both Rax down. And now the attempt to escape. K-Wiz, though, getting targeted on that Wind Ranger. Can Wind Ranger get out of this one is the question. Judge Me goes for the blind stun. Doesn't get it. Blinks, but it doesn't disjoint. KO is trying to finish the job. Runs like the devil as he says, I think I might be in some trouble to get out of this one. Judge Me's going to go ahead and force staff to safety. Quiz very low. Lucky finishes the job. And K-Wiz, who thought maybe I can get the Wind Ranger, ends up being got.
So, yeah, 1 racks, now they're about even, right? But the Tiny and the Alchemist handle being down to racks much better than the Wraith King and the Slardar do, and the Wind Ranger. So, despite the fact that it did also get the range barracks, which obviously Dire did not manage to get in the top lane, despite that, this is not a good even situation to be in for UCD. They need to make sure that they're able to apply pressure without taking so many trades. And the fact that they're not actually moving into, they're not going to be able to take Roshan either, that CAL will get Roshan now, is devastating.
Power
it's
Shot
nothing
reveals.
short of devastating.
Power Shot reveals that they were going into Roche. They immediately back out and start pinging here. Say, hey, we've got vision. What a curious ward. I don't think
And Wind Ranger is literally just sitting here throwing power shots for vision into the Roche bit just to make sure there's nobody there.
Again, an underrated part of her skill set, the incredible vision that Power Shot brings to the game. They're going to use that for some zoning. Now we see a smoke rotation and the weave. So the weave is ticking up right now as they look for the engagement. Visceral is going to go out to scout. They don't reveal anything. The charge is now up. Here they come. Little Namcor blinks in. Immediately the armor reduction put on the ground. Throws for days. YY Panda in some trouble. One more will finish him. K-Wiz got a bit deep. He's taking some work, but now they make the turnaround. Jet dropping low. Does have the ability to come back up. That'll slow everyone. Judge Me comes in. Oh, but the toss to the high ground. Delta Sheep says, no, run, get out of here. Big shackle latch on Juan, but that still leaves Namcor free to go. In comes Judge, and they get the kill. Nicely done there as they try to rotate back around. Lucky 5-7 turns in. The armor reduction is just too strong. Delta Sheep dropping. Dark Cataclysm dropping down. Chocobo and Delta say, we're going to finish this one. Meanwhile, Wind Ranger goes to catch Juan with a massive latch. Turns it back, and actually Lucky 5-7 will die to Juan as Jet does not get there in time. He helped to get the kill on the Undying, and Juan tries to just tankiness himself away, but will ultimately go down for a 4-man wipe. How the hell did Undying escape?
You know, the most important thing about that to me is that the Wind Ranger died because she was using her ultimate within range of Craggy Exterior against the stunned Tiny. And she got hit with her second arrow by Craggy Exterior, and he just turned on her as soon as the stun ended. If she had just stepped outside of range first, she might have survived there. It was an aggressive play either way, but standing within that Craggy Exterior while you're attacking like 4 times a second is a guaranteed way to get yourself wrecked.
Yeah, it's like blinking it or doing it to an X. Been there. Does not work out well. All right, let's go to the bottom lane where the push goes on. They send the creeps in and say, all right, start putting some damage on the tower. Creeps are actually putting in some good work there. Meanwhile, we're going to see K-Wiz go ahead and grab himself a double damage rune and probably go to farm with it down the top lane.
Creeps putting in good work. The ranged barracks is now gone to match the melee barracks here in the top lane, along with all of the Moonwells. So this is a direct line now to tier 4s, basically. Which
makes sense. Which is difficult.
It's dangerous if you're UCD because unlike CAL, they still have a little bit of buffer. Not a lot of buffer, but a bit of buffer if the creeps push into their base while they're not in the base. But for UCD, creeps in the base are instantly a problem now.
All right, gold lead is about dead even. XP is pretty firmly on the side of UCD at 7,500 as the items continue to stack up for these two teams. Wraith King looks like he'll be going for a Radiance next to complete his I'm just going to stand here build. And what else are we looking at? Greaves finished up. I mean, but it is though, right? Tiny did finish the Assault Cuirass, so that's up. That I think was up in the last fight, and if not, will be very valuable in the coming one.
Yeah, this is an item that came out too late, but it is a good sign for them. If they're already kind of trading even, they're definitely going to be trading even now that they have this, and they are smoking up. They're going to move aggressively. They're doing this at a very dangerous time because their lane is pushed in. It should naturally push itself out, but if they do lose a team fight here, there will immediately be repercussions in their bottom lane.
So there's a big rotation. We're going to whisper like it's a land final. We don't want them to hear us as they pop that smoke and rotate towards the mid position. Smoke is running out, though, and there's no one to be found. It's almost like UCD wanted to do the same thing, and yes, they do. So they pop their smoke and start a counter rotation. That said, it looks like Cal's is going to run out, and I don't think that UCD is going to find anybody with theirs either, as they're headed into the opponent's jungle, but unless they get a really lucky rotation by one of the Cal's guys, I think that they're also going to end up with a whole lot of nada. So both teams pop the smoke, and all it really does is give them some understanding of their enemy's position. That said, though, UCD using this to get some wards up, and will now have complete visual control over Cal's jungle, which I think is pretty valuable for them at this point in time.
Excuse me. Yeah, they are moving very aggressively here, and they do have that vision up, but they cannot afford to take any more bad fights, right?
Yeah.
They have a hero-killing-oriented lineup. They did very well for a time, killing those heroes. And then, really, I think where they started to lose this out was where they engaged into the high ground instead of just chipping at the tower. The Wind Ranger is so good at chipping towers, you might as well just let her do her thing.
So,
and she is going to go for a maxed out Daedalus instead of going for the negative armor of the Desolator.
which I think if you've already built the MKB, I think that's the right choice. There's so much negative armor on your team already as well,
right,
that it's not necessary.
The only reason that I have any concerns about this is the negative armor that you want that for is to hit the tower, not to hit heroes.
True.
You want to be able to chip away that tower faster because you're having such trouble taking
Judge
high
Me
ground.
goes in very deep, gets caught with the armor reduction.
Wow.
Out comes a huge Lich ultimate, puts in some serious work. The Tombstone goes down, double buybacks. Juan comes in, puts some work on Judge, but the Aegis is there. Jet's on the run. He's got the mana to make a comeback, though. Glimmer Capes, Judge left behind. He gets a Glimmer Cape as well as he tries to get to safety. He's going to try to force step himself down to the low ground, or not, waits for the Blink Dagger to get off, and they pull out with all 5, force 2 buybacks. Really actually a great engagement for UCD to stick to their strategy of chip, kill, and fade away.
Yeah, that was another one of those risky plays, exactly like the mid game or the mid lane one, where they arguably started losing the game, right? And that one went much better, but that doesn't necessarily make it less risky. That was a very, very difficult call to make, and the aggression coming out of UCD will eventually cost them this game if they don't start to hold it in check, to be honest. It worked out for them there, but they need to start taking these towers and stop focusing in too heavily on heroes.
I'm going to take a second to call out our tournament coordinator, which I shouldn't do because he's our boss. But he's trying to build hype in Twitch chat and goes, can USC come back from this? Man, as if we already hadn't put in the wrong label on a team earlier.
Is that the United Soul Services? Is it civil?
That's what he meant. The United Soul Civils is a nickname for Cal.
It's the mascot for CL.
Goldleaf, by the way,
mascot.
is still in UCD's favor. It's been a veritable up and down, though, an EKG of a match, if not a massive EKG, as the spikes have gone aggressively in both sides. We're going to do an Ag Scepter check-in here. We have the Ags up on the Tiny, we have the Ags up on the Undying, and that is it. So I expected to maybe see one out on the Dazzle at this point, but I guess Alk did get slowed down pretty significantly over the last couple of minutes.
He also went in for a Vlad's, which I think was a very good call. The Dazzle, it is a nice utility pickup, but that Dazzle Ags is not.
Twitch, Judge Me runs. The charge will not get there in time, and he's going to blink back to safety. Will K-Wiz go YOLO Baggins? He doesn't.
He's going to pull off. This Hobbit's staying in the Shire. There's no way.
He thought about it. He got to the hedge. He got to the edge of the farmer's field and said, I just think I'm going to take some corn and go home.
Yeah, no, he got to that point where he and Sam stopped and said, this is the farthest I've ever been from the Shire, and said, well, time to turn back around. It was a good adventure.
It was good.
It'll make for a good novelette. I'm not trying to make my memoirs 4,000 pages long like that asshole Bilbo Baggins.
I'm no bull roarer took. All right.
Oh, boy. Okay, so Hobbit humor aside, we should be seeing some significant... I'm assuming the Monkey King bars are going to start coming out, but it could potentially be the upgrade to the Shadow Blade. Man, my brain is falling apart right now. It could potentially be tiny upgrade to the Shadow Blade.
I broke you with the Middle Earth humor.
I honestly, I'm still on Gandalf. You know what I mean?
Gandalf the Grey would say there is no such thing as Hobbit humor. All right, we're going to see the smoke popped as Lucky 5-7 leads the charge into their opponent's jungle. Can she find what she's looking for? If she's looking for death, she's going to look for K-Wiz. She turns the left corner. Oh, she finds Delta Sheet. Big shot. Not going to latch, not going to matter. Lucky 5-7 wants to keep moving, but a Ghost Scepter play by the Undying smartly gets him out of harm's way. K-Wiz on the run, thinking about possibly engaging. Lucky 5-7 decides it's not worth the risk, and now we look at Pink. Lil Namcor caught by the rest of the crew. They're buying some space. Out comes the Shackle. Not going to latch, not going to matter. Namcor gets caught in a bad position, I think trying to sneak to the secret shop. Ends up paying with his life and losing a nice chunk of gold. The swing, actually massive, about 1,500, as UCD can now push to the high ground as happily as can be. They immediately turn to go towards that top lane. In comes Judge Me. He mans up, gets a stun on K-Wiz. K-Wiz is in Biz, so they can't do much about that. Juan wants to play, gets the avalanche on Lucky, tosses her up in the air. Lucky's gonna have to be careful. Pops the wind run, goes off. Juan dropping low, K-Wiz with the stun, but he's gonna cancel it. Pops his BKB, and now it's just wasting away. Jet playing deep, though. He gets the stun on Kata, makes him burn to the ground, baby. Juan sees Slaughter, wants to make it happen, gets the stun on Jet, though, with the avalanche. Jet dropping low. He's got the ulti, doesn't care. Sticking inside, pops the blade mail. Now, he may be in some serious trouble here as he's going to go down. YY Panda will very likely drop in the interim. He's coming back up. Chocobo sticking around to help. Pops the Glimmer Cape immediately. Says, I'm getting out of here. Jet says, I can't. Save yourself. And in comes Lucky 5-7 to try and finish off the rack. Should be able to do it, and will run immediately after. Good stun by K-Wiz. Lucky 5-7 will
maybe not a Glimmer Cape.
Yep. Good play by the Lich. That was Lich, though, coming back to Glimmer Cape up. He's going to go for the TP. No stun available, and he'll get away. So next level plays by Lich there to make sure that they got that Rax and got off. And that's going to get them the double Rax advantage. This is really big because Cal's now going to have to commit at least one hero pretty consistently to going back to stop those lanes from coming in.
They still do have much better heroes to deal with 2 lanes of Megas than their opponents. And they also, or CAL, that is, has pretty good heroes to deal with Megas. They have a Tiny with Ags and soon-to-be Monkey King Bar. And they have the negative armor of the Acid Spray on the Alchemist. I would like to see him build a Maelstrom into Mjolnir before he gets the Ags for anybody else.
So after that fight, UCD, from that fight, went from a 3,000 gold advantage to a 10,000 gold advantage.
Yeah.
Because of the buybacks, because of the fight, the way that it sort of broke down, and ultimately the big farmers, namely Wind Ranger, being able to get out as well as get the pickoffs on a lot of those last hits. So now we go to Namcor, who's checking on the Roche, saying, please give me Roche, but it's not going to happen. We've got another minute-ish, 45 seconds until that Roche responds.
We should point out that while that fight was going on, a tier 4 did drop for UCD because of that lack of Moonwells I was talking about. Any time out at the base is very dangerous for them in that top lane. And we had talked about that, and that's exactly what happened. Because they had pushed up through the mid lane and they cut over to the side, they left their top completely undefended.
Twitch, that Judge has to be careful here. His Blink Dagger's off in 2 seconds. He's thinking about going in, and he's too deep. Slardar, you crazy fish. Caught in a bad position, and he is going to go down. He's got a light on his head, but it shed no light on the wraparound coming from Cal. They got an advantage of 5-4. This is the right time to go for Roche, who's about to pop up. Will let Namcor see it. He leaves. Will anybody go back in there? Oh, God. They should have stuck.
They're going to stick around. Okay. They're just trying to make sure that they're zoning any potential opponent out.
There he is. Jackpot, says Little Namcor as he calls in the cavalry, and they get ready to take down this Roche. They got to do it fast, though.
This sees them. Like they are going to be engaged here, almost certainly.
And they know it.
Maybe not. The Slaughter is down.
The weave comes out just in case. You're going to start to push in pretty aggressively here. Roche dropping low, and it looks like Jet's just going to head into the opponent's jungle. They say, we know you're going for it. There's not much we can do. Yeah. Cheese will get picked up by the Undying, so he will carry that until someone else needs it as Juan gets himself an Aegis.
Oh, wow. Undying. Look at his build. He's got an Ethereal Blade, and he does have the Synthags.
And the
so he is able to steal 10 primary attribute per hero per cast of Decay, and then hit them with a giant nuke from Ethereal Blade.
Intriguing.
That is rough. If you are a support for UCD or even the Wind Ranger, as soon as she uses Wind Run, he can hit her with that. She can't really go anywhere, and she can't be attacked anyway during that time except by the Tiny. And she's going to lose like half her health if he has a decent amount of stacks up.
2 times primary attribute. So currently it's already at 140 nuke. I get what you're saying. That's pretty brutal.
Right. Now imagine if he has, say, 50 stolen. 1 good decay. 50 stolen strength. So that's another 100 damage per decay if he gets good group decays, right?
All right, now's the engagement time. Here they come in, put up some wards. K-Wiz wants to go for the charge. Gets in very deep, cancels it on the double, but here comes the Lich ulti. Put in some downses, but whoop, BKBs for days. K-Wiz drops low, Judge in some trouble. Juan taking a lot of damage, but he's got the Aegis, so he ain't scared. Out comes the shallow grave as Juan starts to back away. Jet wants to keep going, starts to work on that grave tombstone. They do get it down. Lil Namcor says lag. Both teams now strategize as quickly as they possibly can. This pause advantage in terms of strategy will definitely favor UCD, however, as Cal is trying to make a half retreat, half reinitiation. So they can look at it. If you're Cal at this point, do you say, F it, we got a pot commit, or do you say, I think we can still get out of this one?
If they try to get out, they will lose the hero, dude.
And that's what they're going to do. So Judge comes in, gets the stun, down the first one. K-Wiz on the run. Here comes Jet, goes forward, gets Juan. Juan's going to go down. Aegis is going to come out. Wrap around now. Delta Sheep taking a lot of damage. He is isolated as Juan comes back. Lucky 5-7 will pull Juan away. Delta Sheep just so tanky, though. Tries to TP, ends up going down. Juan finds himself some Lich. Chocobo gets saved by the latch. Juan goes down 1 and 2. And I believe Undying even used the cheese in that fight. So Roche completely nullified. The push tears down the mid lane here as there is no return from the...
Yeah, that's a GG.
Yeah, that's actually to GG it out because 100 seconds is just too long.
It was just too aggressive, to be honest. They felt the pressure of having those megas leveraged against them. But they honestly, they had the time. Alchemist goes in for the Maelstrom. They're able to clear those waves with 2 of their heroes pretty easily. I honestly, I think that they could have turned this around if they had been a bit more patient.
Makes sense to me. All right, guys, that is game 1 of our best of 3 here between UCD and Cal. We've got at least 1 more, if not 2 tonight, and based on the way that both of these teams have played their butts off, we could very well see 2 more games. So make sure you don't go anywhere. Stick around. It's going to be a lot of fun. My name's Toffees. You can find me at Toffees TV over on Twitter, and I'm joined by Gorgon the Wonder Cow. You can find him at the Wonder Cow over there as well. And just a quick plug for a chance to win some really cool swag, guys, is if
How do I win the really cool swag, Toffees?
Well, let me tell you, Gorgon. If you head over to cstarleague.com right now, what you're going to find is a banner competition, and that is a design competition to make the new banner for the website. The team that wins will be given 5, count them, 5 brand new Razer headsets. So get a friend, get a graphic designer, get somebody to enter the competition for you because there's too much free stuff not to do so.
Somebody
That's it.
tell CAL because I think they need it for their early game communication.
Oh, the birds are real. That's it, guys. We'll play some music for you and hang out in Twitch chat. If you have any questions, we'll wait for the next game to get started. Don't go anywhere because we're coming back with some of the best college Dota on the market. My name's Toffees, and as always, Toffees out.
Oh, I know that I love you even though you seem to string me along. But when we lock eyes and your smile shining bright, your trance turns right into wrong, and I'm hypnotized. I'm hypnotized. Oh, I know that I love you even though you'll get me killed gotten so lost in the dark that you forget who you really are? Have you ever wondered so much for the end that you forget how it begins? It's the look in your eyes when you look at me, when I touch your heart and I feel it beat, when I brush my hand up against your face to wipe your tears clean. It's not the end, we'll find that you've arrived. Take my hand, let me see that smile again. It's not the end, we'll find that you've arrived. Take my hand, let me see that smile again. Have you ever gotten so lost in the dark that you forget who you really are? Have you ever wondered so much for the end that you forget how it begins? It's the look in your eyes when you look at me, when I touch your heart and I feel it beat, when I brush my hand up against your face to wipe your tears clean. It's not the end, we'll find that you've arrived. Take my hand, let me see that smile again. It's not the end, we'll find that you've arrived. Take my hand, let me see that smile again. It's not the end, we'll find that you've arrived. Take my hand, let me see that smile again. It's not the end, we'll find that you've arrived. Take my hand, let me see that smile again. Have you ever gotten so lost in the dark that you forget who you really are?
I set your soul on fire. I black out the sun. That priest, he called me a liar. While blessing his own, I'm trying not to hurt you.
I think I'm starting to lose my mind because this precarious situation that we find ourselves in means that it's only a matter of time before a storm of wonder starts to fill my mind. And for the first time in a long time, you're the first one to make me feel like I want you more and more than I know. I cannot take my eyes off of you. If you're a storm, I'll dance in the rain and hold on, I'll hold on, I'll hold on by my fingertips. Maybe I've already lost my mind. Maybe we've come so far so fast and now there's no way we could ever go back. And now it's only a matter of time before a storm of wonder off of my mind. And for the first time in a long time, you're the first one to make me feel like I want you more than I do. I cannot take my eyes off of you. If you're a storm, I'll dance in the rain. You took me in, swept me away. I'm tossed and turned, thrown by the wind. This is an orchestration of beautiful moments that I don't want to end. Hold on, hold on, hold on by my fingertips. I want you more than I do. I cannot take my eyes off of you. If you're a storm, I'll dance in the rain. And hold on by my fingertips. I want you more than I do. I cannot take my eyes off of you. If you're a storm, I'll dance in the rain. You took me in, swept me away. I'm tossed and turned, thrown by the wind. This is an orchestration of beautiful moments that I don't want to end. Hold on by my fingertips. Nothing's ever felt this right. Crossing the other side. No, nothing's ever felt this way before. And nothing's ever felt this real. For something I don't always feel. No, nothing's ever felt this way before. Is this real?
Good evening and welcome back to the Collegiate Star League Tuesday Night Fights matchup between the UC Davis Aggies and Cal's UC Berkeley, as they did forget to put up a name, so we're just going to call them blank or whatever we feel like in this match. Now, keep in mind, UC Davis 6-0 up in the books for the overall league standings. Cal trying to prove that they deserve to hang. I believe that their record is a 2-4, so they definitely want to try to earn their way back into this, and they're going to start doing that with the Shadow Fiend pickup. My name is Toffees. You can find me at Toffees TV. You can find my opulent co-caster Gorgon the Wonder Cow at the Wonder Cow, and you can find the league at C Star League over on Twitter. Gorgon, game 2, what do you think?
I like... So, the Sticky Banana Eaters, which is what I've decided to call the Radiant side, is showing me that they are aware of some more nuanced drafting conventions. They banned out Shadow Fiend last time when they were dire. They picked Shadow Fiend this time on Radiant. Shadow Fiend does get a Radiant side advantage because he does have easier access to his jungle to stack and then clear down stacks for souls. And that little bit of an advantage is a big difference maker in terms of like pro Dota. You'll see even guys like PPD talk about how when they're on Radiant side, they'll draft a Shadow Fiend, and you see that more often. So whether or not it makes a big difference for this team at this level of play, I don't know, but I have seen them manipulate quite a few conventions so far. I'm honestly kind of impressed by this captain, Lil Namcor, compared to a lot of the captains that we've seen at this level of play.
He also played a very strong Alchemist in the last match. Did not ultimately work out for them as they got beaten by UC Davis, and a very strong late game brought on by, I think, that Windrunner kind of making enough space that everybody else got online. That said, his early play was curious yet effective. Is that a good way to define what we saw from him in the early game?
Who, Namcor?
Yeah, because he sort of didn't go into lane to farm as often as we thought he would, but still managed to procure a very large gold lead.
It was a bit curious. He definitely played to a more aggressive, hero damage-oriented build, and he tried to maximize that by chasing heroes around by the runes. I think really there was just that 90 seconds in the mid game, or that near the end of the laning phase, that kind of blew my mind that he would spend what appeared to be 90 full seconds not at all interested in creeps whatsoever as an alchemist. But if he only has level 1 Greeble Screed and he is going for a kill-oriented build, hey, it makes sense. He did get a kill out of it. So
now, UC Davis doing something a little bit different here. Not in the form of who they're picking up, but in the early draft, we see the Disruptor and the Darkseer grab. I know Darkseer has been relatively popular lately. A lot of value in terms of the way lineups have gone, sort of controlling the tempo of these fights. Disruptor, another hero that's going to be very interesting to get here. One of my favorite supports, but not someone that we see as often anymore. What do you think of those first two pickups versus the very classic Shadow Fiend Queen of Pain?
Disruptor is a good combo hero with the Darkseer. He's not by any means a hero that you never see, but he is, you're right, less popular. He's on the lower end of the top 25 most played right now, in terms of professional Dota at least. And gets picked up a lot more often than he gets banned, which makes him a good early, well, honestly, he's a good early game because he's a support. I would rather have seen him come out early in the second phase rather than at that stage. You normally are going to want to grab your higher priority heroes that are more likely to be banned out.
It seems to me, though, that maybe UC Davis is running a little bit of some pocket here, right? Like, maybe we'll see a Magnus pickup or something like that, that they've got a strategy that they aren't 100% sure is sort of the go-to, but with a game in hand, they feel like it could work, and it could be a lot of fun. So we see that a lot in the CSL, don't we? When the first game goes to the team who's sort of higher up in the brackets and they have one in hand, they kind of pull something cheeky out. So I'm curious if Davis will decide to do that for us this evening.
Yeah, so the only reason that I would see them going for a Disruptor pick here, right, is because they don't plan on picking anything in meta. And they did actually ban out two of the meta heroes that pair best with their Darkseer that would be most likely to pair in, right? The Gyrocopter and the Winter Wyvern. Both of them are hugely picked. I think Gyrocopter is the second or the third most paired hero with Darkseer in terms of professional play. Winter Wyvern is the most successful pairing. So they could still go in for something like an Ember Spirit, which is surprisingly not yet picked or banned. And they are spending a good deal of their reserve time discussing what they want to do. I don't think they have a plan right now. I feel like they're
I would say the long pick time tells me that, they're just playing this one.
I think they're a game up, and they're thinking, like, I kind of wanted to play a Disruptor Darkseer combo. Right. Maybe they do some sort of a pocket strat around it, but it's not filled out into 5 heroes.
Well,
they have a general idea.
And we've talked about this before. At this level of play, this isn't the pros. These aren't 7 and 8K players. These aren't players who have vast amounts of heroes probably in their pocket. So there is a little bit of that discussion of, well, what do you feel comfortable with? What do you like to play? And it sounds like that discussion landed on an Ogre Magi. So Ogre, a strong hero. I feel like another one of those, like that Disruptor, that's sort of on the list, but not played that much, which surprises me because I feel like that Bloodlust should be a lot stronger in this meta.
It's just... he's single target stun. He doesn't do any AoE. His physical damage is blah. Granted, he does increase other people's physical damage, but even so, he is tanky, but with so much negative armor, his regen doesn't really do that much. I don't know. He just doesn't really fit the mold, so to speak, of an early game support that you would typically want in this meta. Yeah, for all of those reasons, and I'm sure others that would come to me if I sat and thought about it for long enough. The Shadow
If you
Shaman
pondered.
is a hero that fits all right. Once again, not a hero that we see a ton. It's not a hero that we see completely ignored, though. It will be interesting to see how they leverage that Shadow Shaman into pushes, whether or not the Shadow Fiend is going to go into a mechanism build, or if he's going to go into the popular Sanjin Yasha mid-game damage and survival build.
Mm-hmm.
That is really key to me to understanding what the Sticky Banana Eaters are going to be doing here.
You're just making up names. I like it. All right, so Shadow Fiend, Shadow Shaman, I'm sorry, is another one of those heroes that I enjoy watching. I think that he has a lot of value. It looks like maybe... Are they planning on using that for split push, or do you think they're using that for sort of fight control in terms of those wards?
I would assume that that's going... I mean, it's both, right? Whenever
Right.
you have to use them, you
That's
have to
true,
use them.
that's
I
true.
would assume that that's going to be intended for some push. We'll probably see some additional push come out here with the second support.
Sven.
But that's why I was saying it's interesting. I wonder how the Shadow Fiend is going to build, because the Queen of Pain looks to be a farming carry right now.
Right.
And that, once again, implies very aggressive play around that 15 to 20 minute mark, if not earlier, because she does not go late as hard as other carries, right?
So you don't think she'll offlane?
She could. It's a thing that they could do.
It is a thing. That is true. I'm curious to see where they go with this next one.
I
like their mobility.
think it's going to be a CTY-esque Queen of Pain. I think that's probably the player they're modeling this draft after. And remember, like CTY, his Queen of Pain was one of the most priority banned heroes in all of Frankfurt. Like, in general, I think it was a quarter of all Queen of Pain bans were leveraged just against eHome in that tournament. Like, so she can be a good carry. Obviously, she can be, because he does it very effectively. I'm not saying that she doesn't fill the role at all, but she just doesn't go late that well.
Lich. Very interesting.
They like this Lich. Well, actually, this is the other team. So the armor to slow down the Sven's attack speed makes sense to me. Also, there's a fair amount of physical damage coming out of UC Davis with, obviously, the Sven. Also, the Darkseer Illusions doing physical damage. They're going to be able to slow down push potential, and UC Davis already doesn't have great push other than the Sven. I can see the Lich. I don't really know that I would prioritize him, especially with the Darkseer Illusions potentially sucking up blasts of that Chain Frost, but I can see why they might want the Lich.
Should be pretty interesting here. I see right now what I feel like I'm expecting to come from Cal as a Shadow Fiend mid, Quap in the offlane. I think they're going to pick up a hard carry here. Honestly, I think something like a Medusa wouldn't be that far off for them, and the style of play that they showed us in the last game. Lots, because you got a good 4 protect 1. You can make plenty of space for her in the early game. Let her do her thing in the mid game as Queen of Pain and Shadow Fiend sort of come online. And UC Davis doesn't have a ton of mobility right now. They've got heroes that are going to have to kind of build up to Blink Daggers, aren't going to be able to initiate quickly and aggressively early on, and give plenty of time for a Medusa or a hero like that to farm up. So that's what I think we're going to see. I'm curious to see which way it actually goes. UC Davis going to be looking for their last hero, presumably for that mid position. What are they looking for here? Something like an Ember Spirit or what? Okay, I didn't expect that.
They've got a Meepo player. There's no reason to not do that here.
Yeah.
The Meepo really screws over the Lich with the Chain Frost potential. Really, Shadow Fiend can actually do pretty well against the Meepo in a lot of cases. The Shadow Shaman does not typically do well against the Meepo because there's always another Meepo to interrupt a shackle, right? And the Nyx Assassin return, I don't like that pick personally. Who is he going to kill, right? Maybe, Disruptor is killable. Darkseer might be killable for some of the game. Meepo might be killable for some of the game. But how are they going to go into the late game? And how strong of a start does this Nyx Assassin have to get off to in order to actually contribute anything substantial?
Well, before we load in, I should say you were right. I was wrong. UMR will be a farming Queen of Pain. It looks like his Namcor will likely go to the mid, and we'll see an offlane K-Wiz. So Gorgon, as usual, gets the pride points off of this one. Lucky 5-7, who played a heck of a win ranger last time, is going to be taking that Meepo. Should be very interesting. We saw a lot of Meepo during the majors, right? More than we're used to seeing, and a lot of that on the fact that, we had some of the best
OG
Meepo
and
players in the
Secret
world. Yeah,
both run Meepo. Right?
exactly. And phenomenally well. So it's funny because when we have Meepos generally pop up, it's one of those heroes a lot of folks don't know that well because they don't spend a lot of time playing it, though Majors kind of opened a lot of people's eyes to just how well this Meepo can function if played well. But have you played a lot of Meepo? How long does it take to adequately master a Meepo to the point where you can feel comfortable taking them to a competitive game?
It depends on what level you play at, right? Like, so I am by no means a Meepo master, but I've played him a handful of times. I stopped playing him entirely when I switched over from a traditional keyboard to a keypad, which is better for my wrist, because I don't have enough keys to hotkey every one of the Meepos, right? But in terms of figuring out the basic mechanics, that isn't as hard as it sounds like. You just need to basically program into your hand the ability to hit across the number keys and hit for the poof. The real trouble with Meepo is conceptually understanding the Meepo and then being able to micro and not lose the Meepos in fights, right? Those are the two things that are much more difficult. People seem to think that a difficult part of learning Meepo is the like muscle memory of doing Meepo, and I don't think that is as hard for Meepo as it is for a lot of other heroes that only have one unit. But conceptually, knowing how to take farm without completely screwing over your team, how to go into the mid game effectively, when to engage and when not to engage, which Meepo you should leave at the fountain, that sort of stuff takes a lot of games to understand.
Repetition makes sense. All right, so let's do some quick introductions. Everybody goes to their laning phase. Down the bottom for the Dire side for University of California, UC Davis, we're going to have Judge Me Twitch, I Dare Ya on the Darkseer. In the mid, we're going to have Lucky57 playing that Meepo. Up on top, we're going to have YY Panda supporting on the Ogre Magi. We're going to have Jet on the Sven, and last but not least, Chocobo on the Disruptor.
All right, and here for the off lane, we are going to have Juan chilling out on the Lich. Quiz is bugging out on the Nyx Assassin. Here in the mid lane, it is going to be Lil Namcor raising hell on the Shadow Fiend. And then down in the safe lane, it is Dark Cataclysm on the Shadow Shaman. And, of course, UMR is blinking around on the Queen of Pain.
And those are the lineups as you see them. Last tonight chart up for you as we'll keep an eye on the action. Where are you expecting the fight to break out first?
Probably this top lane, because it is duel on duel, and we're actually seeing a rotation coming on here now as the Ogre Magi.
Go. Big kinetic field. Quiz got nowhere to go. Puts up a double stun, but will it be enough? It won't. First blood. that was an easy call for you to make because the fight was in the process of breaking out.
Yeah.
So Ogre Magi gets a good first blood, and K-Wiz, who you said, and I quote, needs to get off to a good start, gives up the first blood.
I just don't know where he's going to go and what he's going to do.
Rut-row, poof on Namcor. Namcor caught, blocked, and knocked down by two Meepos. Imagine what happens when 2 becomes 4.
Yeah. So, despite the fact that we've seen quite a bit of Shadow Fiend and quite a bit of Meepo, we have not seen Shadow Fiend up against Meepo so far this patch in Pro Dota. It's difficult to call what's going to happen here. I would expect the Shadow Fiend to come out ahead because he does have the power of the raise, but you do have to be careful because a Meepo does have killing potential if he has a rotation into his lane especially.
YY Panda backs away. Juan is playing. So, interestingly enough, Juan was the tiny in the last game and yielded up the carry position to UMR, who I believe came in as a sub because one of the players from Cal was unable to continue with the match and had to go do something else. I said his mom made dinner, but that was just me making something up.
UMR is seemingly fairly new to Dota, if his profile stats are anything related. He's got 45 commends. He doesn't show his MMR or anything, but he is all farming all the time according to that breakdown. So maybe this is the only position he knows how to play. I don't know. Or maybe this is
maybe it's just a low commend count because he's a very angry person.
It could be. I know a lot of farming carries tend to be.
That's actually very true.
Oh, Cataclysm.
Ooh, Dark Cataclysm is in a dark place as he's caught inside of the trees by Lucky57. Another rotation in a death, man. Lucky57 off to a start that is all going to cause trouble. I'm going to hold on for a second. It looks like they wanted to gank the top. In comes the double stun, catches Juan. Chocobo going to close. He does have the glimpse to use, but not going to need it as Juan jukes back through the trees. Double stun comes out. Juan's got nowhere to go. Tries to hide out. Jet says, I'll take care of this one. And YY Panda and Chocobo do nothing but stand by and make sure that there's no possibility of escape. I actually really like this. So instead of charging in the old-fashioned way, they held down the 2 escape routes and let Jet just take care of it himself.
Yeah. So here's what I will say. Remember I was saying Meepo is a hero that is harder to understand conceptually than he is to actually physically handle the poofs? Well, hold on. We could see Quiz die again.
Quiz just barely gets out of that kinetic field, and that will mean
He's going to be going
gets,
back,
nope,
though.
he comes back. He gets stunned immediately. This could be trouble. One more will do it. Oh, Jet wants it so bad. Pops the speed boost, chases in, finishes the job. Kinetic field comes down just in case that Jet couldn't close the distance, but he does manage to. Juan almost got there in time to make a difference, but it's not going to happen. And the 5-0.
Before we get too far away from this, I want to point this out.
Yes.
That the Meepo got an illusion rune, sent the illusion to go scout down here, and then poof to the illusion, which a lot of players don't realize that you can do. You can poof to illusions with Meepo. So that's one of those little things in terms of the conceptual difficulty of Meepo that this player is executing correctly.
And he's coming in, poofs once, poofs twice. Good shackle, though. Buys some space. Lucky 5-7 goes down on the raise. So actually a nice turnaround play by the Shadow Shaman to stop what looked like a poof that was about to happen.
Yeah, that would have been a killing poof, so to speak. It would have poofed him back to the fountain.
Instead, the kill goes poof.
Yeah.
And he ends up giving up his own life. And that's an important kill for them because it's 1 in 6. That pulls it back from what was going to be 2,000 to 1,000. As the only man getting kills at the moment is that Meepo. 26-5 for the Shadow Fiend, 21-2 for the Meepo, but the rotations make it significantly closer or farther ahead for the Meepo than it looks. Uh-oh, we're going to get pulled back. Nabcor could be in some trouble. Caught in the kinetic field. Lucky 5-7 comes in, throws out the net. The poofs begin. Nabcor's got nowhere to go, and Lucky 5-7 is layering those nets like it is his job. I mean, I know that Earthbind is technically his job, but he is doing it very, very effectively. Meanwhile, down the bottom, Judge Me Twitch gets caught by the Quap. UMR closes the distance, says, I can try to kill you, but he's not going to be able to as the surge comes up, and Judge Me is able to just barely get away. Oh, he doesn't!
He's soul ringed for no apparent reason.
Why? The soul ring. Curious.
He's soul ringed to give himself a surge, I suspect, but probably could have just held on to it for a second to make sure that he was okay.
Intriguing. Crazy things are afoot at the CSL tonight.
Yeah. Crazy people are afoot with their soul rings right now.
UMR just wanted to maybe confirm your suspect that he hasn't been playing that long. UCD is smoked and hiding Disruptor, and Ogre gonna head in. Judge Me heads out first. He starts the gank, moves on UMR. In comes Chocobo. The right click is there. Is gonna glimpse him back, presumably right about now. Here he comes, Ogre Magi in the right spot. I'll tell you what, I got the feeling that Chocobo and YY Panda have been supporting together for a hot minute because their coordination on these ganks has been absolutely excellent.
Much better than last game. Both teams, honestly, at this stage in the game were showing some coordination issues, but especially the Sticky Banana Eaters on the Radiant side.
And this time it's not going, they're not exactly as coordinated as we'd like to see them.
No,
Gold
definitely
lead
not.
is 2,000, XP is 500, as the guys from UCD continue to sort of dominate this match in the early game. The net worth on Meepo is extremely high, though I guess Shadow Fiend and Quap not far off. So, Sticky Banana Eater's not as far out of it as you might think that they could be. But here comes UCD from the back end. Quiz puts in some damage. Jet gets the heal. He pops that wand to try and stay alive. He's going to get the speed and go away. Quiz goes poof. No, Juan goes back to his favorite spot in those trees. No stun, though, and this time he will manage to get away. Quap on the rotation. See ya, Sven. Makes it a 1-for-1 and runs like the Dickens.
Like, why did she blink that way instead of just to her tower? Like this is one of those moves that I just don't understand.
Next level thinking. We all expected that.
I mean, she's going to get away either way, but if she blinked back to her tower, she could just be farming right now. And instead, she's running around the river playing Splash the Puddle, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna say playing like Tom Sawyer or something. Anyway, old literary references. They're my favorite. YY Panda in some trouble. K-Wiz closes in, gets hit with the stun before he can mana burn. Juan, though, playing deep, goes for the shot, gets hit by Jet. Jet putting out the damage, wants to make the chase. K-Wiz has the stun off in just a second. If he wants to turn back around, Jet knows it and backs away to safety. Ogre Magi will presumably just hide in the trees as his overwhelming regen will take over.
Yeah, and he doesn't have to sit here for very long before he can go re-engage, but the lack of mana is a pretty big deal. He does have a soul ring just sitting in his stash, along with an observer ward and a teleport. The courier was unused there for like 25 seconds, but I guess he didn't want his stuff that badly.
He's into saving. He's not that kind of put it in your mattress guy. He likes to leave it in the bank just until he needs it. Little Namcor is going to go ahead and get some regen, fall back just to be safe. Net worth is showing Meepo out in front, but not that far ahead of Namcor. Quap and Sven pretty even, so the carries are close to each other. As honestly, Golden XP has kept themselves relatively close. Early on, it looked like UCD was going to take a big lead, but I think some tight play by Cal has made sure that this game is still anybody's.
Yeah, I would definitely say that the road is harder for Sticky Banana Eaters, partially because of the draft.
K-Wiz gets stunned. In comes YY Panda, chooses not to stun, instead goes with the harass. And Jet's actually going to take a lot of damage because of that decision. Jet thought they were diving. YY Panda said it was a bad idea. Jet took a lot of damage from tower. Meanwhile, Dark Cat comes in, gets a nice stun. UMR wants to get the kill, and they will get it unjudged. So a good wraparound by the Shadow Shaman. Gets a kill on the Darkseer, and Queen of Pain will get a little more gold put into her coffers. Not bad at all on that rotation by Dark Cataclysm.
Yeah, so what I was about to say is that the road is harder, I think, for the Sticky Banana Eaters. They do have an okay draft, but I don't think that their draft handles UCD as well as UCD ends up handling Sticky Banana Eaters. So while it is still anybody's game, the ball is kind of in the Sticky Banana Eaters' court to make sure that they are executing at every stage as well as they can. The Nyx is going to come for his first potential Vendetta gank here. And it seems like the Meepo kind of smells it.
Looks like Chocobo coming down to make sure that he guards out the mid position here. K-Wiz looking to get something to happen. And I think that Chocobo rotation is going to really frustrate K-Wiz.
He wants to kill it, is the thing. He wants to go kill that Disruptor so badly. Oh, he wants it. You can see him wanting it.
But now they have vision. They know he's there. They know what he's planning. They're pinging him. He's pinging him. He's saying, I want this Chocobo. But I believe the creeps just right-click the Nyx, so he knows what's going on. Kinetic Field comes out, misses Little Namcor, and they should back away. Lucky 5-7 is going to go ahead and poof everyone in, and immediately pushes the high ground to make sure that they cannot turn back around on him. So creeps, I think that the Nyx was done a service by those creeps there. That could have been bad for him. He wants to make a move, gets the stun on Chocobo. This could be trouble. They're coming from all sides. Chocobo dropping low, does get up to silence in a nice Kinetic Field to lock them away and keep his life intact. While Panda rotates in, puts up the slow burn on K-Wiz, who's going to have to drop back, so nicely played. Meanwhile, on the bottom, Dark Cat is going for the same wraparound as last time. Surge into the trees as Darkseer says, no, not now. Can he get the shackle? He doesn't. Kata does not have vision, and he TP's away to safety.
One thing that we do need to keep in mind is that there are now 3 Meepos on the map, and Get Lucky's actually going to die mis-microing one of them almost. Wow, narrowly getting away. But 3 is where you really start to see the money fall into a Meepo's pocket. Because he can both braid the jungle, and he can permanently keep a Meepo in the well and just do individual camps if he needs to. He did knock down a triple stack just now as well, so we should see his net worth start to skyrocket at this point.
And it is starting to, 5.8, but the Shadow Fiend is doing his best to keep on pace as he farms this jungle pretty aggressively. Little Namcor doing a great job, just like we saw him do in the last game of managing that net worth. We did see a rotation from Dark Cat. Comes in, gets judged. YY going to come in to try and help. Not going to happen, though. He may actually find himself in trouble. Wards come out for that extra boost of damage. Quiz wants to make the chase. Doesn't have the stun, though. YY Panda very, very tanky.
The Ion Shell. The Ion Shell killed the Shadow.
Meanwhile, so we saw Ogre go down. Juan up on top in the fight. Jet drops. Deaths aplenty as it's 2 for 3 across the map on a large-scale engagement. All right, Lil Namcor wants this. He's closing. He's waiting for his chance. He goes, Rez!
Oh, big bang.
Yeah.
Nice play. Good. You leveraging that invisibility room to get a kill.
Yep.
Not, especially considering that fight had just occurred up there, and he knew that Disruptor would be backing up.
You know,
not a lot of players would have rotated up.
I am fairly certain, though. In fact, I know for a fact that Disruptor saw him coming in Viz and just couldn't outrun him because they have the vision there. Like, they knew he was there. Yeah. It was just he went, oh, man.
Yeah, he's just too slow. He is moving at, what, 355? Yeah, 355. Yep. Shadow Fiend moves at 390 because he has a Yasha up now, so.
Quiz Juan going to go ahead and smoke and rotate. Juan looking to get himself, or Quiz, I'm sorry, looking to get himself that Vendetta kill. It has not been activated yet, but I'm sure it will once they get closer to this top lane. Jet in a dangerous situation and not realizing it. Little Namcor going to hide in the trees, waiting for his chance to possibly go in. And it looks like he's going to show himself. Jet falls back immediately. I think Lil Nancor is trying to show, hey, nothing's out of place. Nothing's not normal here.
Yeah, if you're trying to show that off, he's going to accidentally stumble into a Meepo, and he'll have to back up, yeah.
So K-Wiz does come out and runs into a Meepo. Now they know that Meepo has come to play, and immediately you see Juan back up. Stun comes out, catches Quiz, out comes the net as well. Jet going to lead the charge. Double stun, though. Catch everyone. Disruptor pulls back Namcor inside of the ultimate. Chocobo's got to clear some space. Namcor burning down very quickly. Poof! And down goes the Disruptor. Now, we did lose Disruptor as well as the Shadow Fiend. K-Wiz are running all over the place, trying to get away. They're pinging him out, saying, look, here's Jet, but nets aplenty. Poofs go off, but they are interrupted beautifully by K-Wiz on a nice impale. Out comes the Darkseer ultimate, though. It's going to cost them 4 for 3 because they did lose the Meepo on a nice rotation by Dark Cataclysm. YY Panda wants to finish the job to make it worthwhile. To finish it out, yes, he can. It's a 5-man wipe as UCD loses most of their cores, but does manage to get the 5.
Yeah, you know what? You lose some cores when you get all your opponent's cores. They ended up way ahead there.
Way ahead.
Granted, the gold not going on the heroes that you ideally want them to, but none of their heroes lost any significant gold there. So a bit of time missing to get your entire opponent field off the map. It's okay. But I'm not sure why the 2 heroes who are remaining are not aggressing on this tower with the catapult. Maybe they're afraid that there's going to be a TP reaction. They would accidentally get into deny range, but that's the only reason I can.
We'll go with that. I think that's exactly what they planned. They didn't think they had the damage output to right-click it down, and likely you would see a TP reaction, I think, if they were pushing there. So
yeah.
There is something to be said, right? I mean, the Co-op and the Shadow Fiend are both very strong right now. The ability for that Nyx to sort of TP in and stun them while the rest come to play, it's a little scary. So I think that's the right choice, UCD, pulling back, taking advantage of that 3 for 5, and trying to maximize the return on the gold. 1,000 to the favor of UCD. XP is at about the same. I was going to do an item update, but it looks like we might get some action instead. As Disruptor's going to come out and do a little bit of scouting here. Goes to the high ground and throws a good ward down, so now they know where everyone is standing on the Radiant defense. So mid will be the next big target, it feels like. Judge going to come through and start to push with his Ion Shell. Down the bottom, we see Lucky 5-7 looking to get a pick. He's got the haste rune, so he would love nothing more than to find someone. He decides it's not worth the risk and heads back to his own jungle.
He's going to use this Meepo with the haste rune to go try to catch out this Lich while he's using the other Meepos to farm the jungle. This is the right call to make. And he won't be able to catch out that Lich probably, but he's not losing anything here. He's getting experience from the lane with this Meepo while he's farming out the jungle for experience with this group of Meepos. The only downside is that the Sven is only taking half experience because there was a Meepo up here.
UMR has bottled the regen rune and is working on the Orchid about halfway there right now. K-Wiz has to be careful. He's getting harassed, pulled back, locked into place. Kinetic field and silence. Lots of poofs. Ultimate from Dark Cata, but everyone's going to back away. Good AoE coming from the Quap. Lucky 5-7 tries to get out. Does throw a nice net there. Oh, here comes the bouncing ball of doom from the Lich. He's going to take it with him. Meepos separate.
He did a really good job there.
Actually, yeah.
He got an unlucky bounce on one of them, but he did see where it was going. He got ahead of it. Meepo is honestly, if you are a even reasonably experienced Meepo player, he's a great hero to have against a Lich because you can always pull out that Ice Blast or the Chain Frost, excuse me. You can always pull out the Chain Frost and just beach it on a Meepo by himself. It's great. It's fantastic. That Chain Frost should never be effective against him. So.
All right, now we're going to go in on Jet. In comes K-Wiz, gets up to Vendetta Strike, follows with the stun, catches him pretty badly. Juan puts up the slow. In comes UMR to finish the job, and he does get the kill. Meanwhile, in the bottom position, YY TP's away just in time. Little Namcor was hungry, but he will not be feasting on Ogre tonight. Gold lead is at 1,500 for UCD. XP a little over 1,000, though pulled back just a wee bit from that Sven pick on the top. Queen of Pain looking pretty good with the second Oblivion staff finished up after that kill. What kind of difference is that Orchid going to make here in the mid game?
Not a lot, to be honest. I mean, who was she trying to stop with casting?
Oh, hold on. Namcor and Lucky going head-to-head. Namcor gets pulled away. Almost gets the turn on Lucky because of Chocobo's glimpse, but ends up surviving. So Lucky will jump back to heal, and they get a nice kill on Lil Namcor. But I'm sorry. As you were saying, not a lot.
I mean, so she's presumably getting that to stop the Ogre Magi from stunning her and to stop the Disruptor from glimpsing her back. So she can blink in on the Disruptor, silence him and kill him and get some easy kills that way. But, I mean, Sven, if you can stop him from casting his ult for a while, it's nice. But he's got a Blink Dagger, so you're not going to be able to do that anytime that he wants to do it anyway. The Meepo, you can't stop him from poofing in because you can only silence one of the bastards, right?
It's not. It doesn't affect all of them.
Is already going to have Ion Shell on him most of the time by the time you get up to him anyway, so that's not that big of a deal, and it will not silence out his mechanism, so the silence itself probably won't make or break a kill. I think the Ags probably would have been a more effective item, to be honest.
Intriguing. All right, K-Wiz is going to go into Vendetta as he now searches for somebody, headed towards the top, turns back to the ruin, sees Jet. Jet could be in some trouble. He's already very low. K-Wiz waiting for the optimal moment to try and engage here. Gets the body blocks up as he, I don't know why would...
He's only got 300 mana though, so I don't know that Quiz can actually kill this on his own.
He's going to go in. He was waiting. Basically, he knew Jet would try to go on Kata. Makes his move. Once that happens, the silence comes down. No, it's disastrous. Jet still alive. Nice play by UMR, and it goes 2 for 1. The Sven does end up going down, but it costs them 2 and 3 because the Shadow Fiend, where did he go down? In mid. That's unfortunate.
Yep.
UMR is going to get pushed backwards as they do see the rotation. UCD comes in with Chocobo. UMR gets hit. In comes the blink. They catch him in the nets. UMR pays for his hubris. Chocobo gets out as Lucky 5-7 tanks up most of that bouncing ball. Not a big deal there. In comes Judge. He takes a lot of damage. Juan finishes the job. YY Panda does get the stun up. Lucky 5-7 to finish it off. It's a 5-man wipe again as UCD capitalizes on bringing Lucky 5-7 all over the map. They got a good pick on the Shadow Fiend in the mid, rotated that around to where UCR was just being way too aggressive with that Queen of Pain and turned into a beautiful 5-man wipe. Gold lead now jumps out to over 5,000 after that for UCD, and an XP lead that big as well. Net worth on the Meeple is almost 12,000, and things are going to start to unravel relatively quickly at this point.
Interesting. Oh, I see what he's doing. Okay. I was confused why he didn't leave a Meeple out, but he did. I just missed it. So, never mind. I don't really know what Radiant are building toward here, because they have an Orchid up on UMR, which implies that they're going to be doing a lot of ganking, or that they want to, but it's not really working out for them. The Shadow Fiend did go for a Sanjin Yasha, which is that mid-game team-oriented build, not team-oriented, but fighting-oriented build. That implies that maybe they wanted to get some early towers, but they don't have any early towers. They maybe wanted to take some early team fights, but they've been losing all the early team fights. Lich did finish a mechanism fairly early for a a 4-spot support. Still pretty decent time. But they're going to be looking into a Meepo with an Aegis now.
Right.
I don't really know what they do here other than try to maximize their farm across the map and take a gank on the
Lucky's
Meepo.
going for a little Namcor, puts out the net, wants to make the chase, not going to land there. He's got to watch out. The entire team is on, but his team's rotating around with the Aegis. Here comes a possible engagement. It looks like Radiant's going to do the smart thing and just fade back to their towers. Meanwhile, YY Panda going to start to lead his team towards this one. Lucky 5-7 jumps in to make sure that they get it without the deny. And here's worth pointing out. You talked about the farm and the situation Radiant finds themselves in. Their core Nyx is less farmed than their 4-position Lich. Well, and I think that's I mean, and both of the supports in the opposing team. How do you come back? I mean, one of your cores is now not really relevant.
I mean, we could see this from the draft, though, right? We knew this Nyx was going to be close to worthless. This isn't the player. This is... So here's the deal. I don't believe really strongly in losing in the draft, quote-unquote. We've got to fight, so we'll come back to this.
Wiz in some trouble, gets caught by the stun, gets out. He's going to get knocked down pretty badly. Lucky 5-7 withdraws the low Meepo. He'll head back to base, and the rest will stick around and put some damage on this tower as they start to work it down. Ern putting in some work. Tower dropping low. We're going to pop the glyph. Meanwhile, up on top, Lil Namcor says, well, I'm going to take this tower. Tier 3, Tier 4, but damned. Sorry, Tier 3. Juan are going to go ahead and start to push the middle tower with the Lich as they lose the racks. Is this basically a desperation call saying, you guys just go ahead and finish? As they say, all right, you're not going to TP back, that's fine. We'll hit your tier 4s. No big deal.
They can't do anything about it. So they're just trying to get whatever they can out of it. I think that the Radiant here just thought that there would be racks and back. That's for some reason UCD would be too scared to come in.
In they go, they catch everyone. It's a double. It's a triple. It's a buyback. The little Namcor caught on the low ground. Lucky 5-7 pulls everyone back as fast as they can, but those Guardian Greaves get everybody built back up. They start to go immediately. Poof! Goes the Dynamite! Down goes the Radiant! They got another buyback. Lost the Shadow Fiend. Lost the Lich. The call comes out from UCR. Cat has got YY Panda locked up. It's not going to be enough. He goes down. The GG comes out, and that is the end of the game. UC Davis basically says, guys, midterms are on the way. We got to study. 7-0. Deuces. My name is Toffees. You can find me at Toffees TV over on Twitter. I'm joined by Gorgon the Wonder Cow. Where can these folks find you?
You guys can find me over on Twitter at The Wonder Cow, and if you liked anything that I did today, you can find writing of mine over at Resner Gamers, over at The Score, and over at Dota Blast. I had articles go up on all 3 sites today, so go over and take a look if you want to learn more about the majors or the meta.
You go ahead and dust off your shoulders, man. That's a lot of writing. So, Gorgon, working, hustling, one of the best analysts in Dota. Glad to have you here with me tonight and every Tuesday and Thursday as we bring you all the action from the Collegiate Star League. Make sure you check out the website at cstarleague.com and make sure that you obviously go there and enter the competition to win 5 Razer headsets in the new banner contest. Definitely the place to be. Thanks for joining us for Collegiate Dota, guys. We're taking a break through January 12th, and then we'll be back every Tuesday and Thursday with more Collegiate Dota running all the way through May, at which point we will have the live LAN final where the top teams will fly out to compete for their share of $15,000 in scholarship funds provided by our great sponsors over at Razer and Alpha Draft. We appreciate them investing in the growth of Collegiate Dota. Finally, my name is Toffees. As always, guys, it's been wonderful to spend the evening with you. I hope to see you again soon. And as always, Toffees out.
I've got this space inside my heart, and I need you to patch me up. I feel lost, I feel lost. Will you be my love? 'Cause I need you. To sleep easy. To sleep easy. To sleep easy. I've got this space inside easy from the first time you were in my life. For the first time, I can't sleep easy from the first time you were in my life. For the first time, I can't sleep easy from the first time you were in my life. For the first time, I can't sleep easy from the first time that you were in my life. Sleep easy. Sleep easy. Sleep easy. Sleep easy.
That's it for tonight, guys. Thank you for joining us for this edition of CSL Tuesday Night Fights. I hope that you all do indeed sleep easy. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll see you on January 12th when the league kicks back up. My name's